Westview Town. The morning sun shone through the thin clouds and shone unsparingly on the town. According to our station's news, after 5 years of disappearance, most people are returning to the right track. The TV in the cafe broadcasts a piece of news. Lee, 5 years have passed since awakening came. How do you feel? Receptionist Johnson withdrew his gaze from the screen and looked at the yellow-skinned young man at the opposite table. It's amazing. 5 years of change is just a matter of seconds for me. Lee Z put down the coffee cup upon hearing the sound, thought for a while and replied, "It's just a dream." The second half of the sentence is Lee Z's true inner thoughts. Everything is like a dream to him, because he is a glorious traveler. Almost a year ago, Lee Z traveled to this world. Time travel is already dreamy enough, but this is still a Marvel universe. And the timeline has progressed to after the Avengers Alliance 4 war. The farce of Thanos snapping his fingers has been settled, and the people who disappeared 5 years later came back and brought him here. You gain 5 years of hiatus, but you lose 5 years of shit. Johnson made a joke to ease the atmosphere. Maybe it's a good thing. See you tomorrow. Lee Z drank the last sip of coffee, turned around and strode out the door. Anyway, it's been almost a year since I came, and it's not a bad thing to spend the rest of my life at Marvel. Ding. The host successfully hid for 8 months, please continue to work hard. Just as he was thinking about the reminder sound in his mind, he interrupted his thoughts. 4 more months. Lee Z was a little distressed. As a glorious traveler, he also has the system Goldfinger. However, his system is a hidden system, as the name suggests. By hiding one's own strength, one can obtain rewards. And the longer you hide, the stronger and more rewards you get. The minimum time limit is 1 year. Lee Z now needs to hide for at least 1 year before he can get rewards. If it is exposed halfway, all previous efforts will be wasted. And the system will also limit the hidden range. The host must stay within the specified range. If it leaves the specified range for more than a week, it will be judged as a failure. The current system stipulates that he can only stay in Zijing Town and some surrounding areas. That's right. Westview Town. It is the town controlled by Scarlet Witch Wanda in WandaVision. When Lee Z heard the news, he greeted all the 18 generations of the system's ancestors. Hiding in Zijing Town is equivalent to the opening hell mode. He doesn't want to be controlled by Wanda, because the controlled person will always live in pain and be eroded and hurt by origin magic power all the time. It is no exaggeration to describe life as worse than death. Fortunately, the system has a conscience and gave him a novice reward for self-protection. Ability. Create magic grade. S+ grade, Introduction. Create magic. As the level increases, you can use it to create everything. Even create everyone's ideal utopia. Creating magic is easy to understand. In fact, it is similar to the creator's ability, which can create everything. However, currently Lee Z's level of creative magic is not the highest. The most high level is not SSR. Definitely this is just a novice reward, if it is a hidden reward after 1 year. I can't imagine how powerful it will be. Only. With his current strength, he doesn't have any problems dealing with Wanda definitely, but he can't solve it quietly. Be clear that Wanda at this stage is infinitely close to the existence of a single universe. Not only that, but he is also a master of magic. Lee Z's current level of magic creation is at most evenly divided in front of her. If it is a forced shot, it will only make the hidden mission fail, and he does not want to give up the reward. After all, strength is very important if you want to survive in Marvel. But Lee Z can persuade Wanda before she becomes demonic, and avoid the tragedy of Westview Town later. According to the development of the plot, Wanda should be in grief at this time, and the reason why she chose Westview Town is that Vision had prepared a house for her here. But the house was not finished, it was just a vacant lot. Lee Z intends to sit on the sidelines and wait for Wanda to come to Westview Town. As for why not use magic to find it? Using psychic magic on a magician who is good at psychic ability is simply courting death. If detected, it would still lead to exposure. So we can only wait for Wanda to appear, unconsciously. Already at the community apartment building, Zijing Town is different from ordinary small towns. It has a large area and all kinds of facilities. It is not so much a town as a small city. Lee Z just walked to the stairs and met the resident Josh. A tall and thin young man with a somewhat immature appearance. He shook his bag. "Lee, I will pay you the rent later, I will go to the bank." "Well, don't wait too long." Lee Z didn't pay much attention. After he came here, he inexplicably inherited an apartment building in the community. The only thing he has to do every month is to collect rent. Coupled with the hidden system, he has nothing to do except lie down in a day. When he returned to his home on the top floor of the apartment, the first thing he did was to lie on the sofa and browse the news on his mobile phone. so as to live the life of the elderly in advance. The events of Spider-Man 2 haven't happened yet? Lee Z looked around, but didn't find any news about Night Monkey Man. It seems that the timeline has not yet reached Spider-Man 2. According to the development of the story, Peter Parker went to Venice with the school, 8 or 9 months after the end of Avengers 4. According to Lee Z's judgment based on time travel, Peter's encounter with the mysterious guest will happen recently. It was also through the plot of Spider-Man 2 that Peter Parker's identity was exposed. 3 insects in the same frame are probably not far away. Lee Z thinks about the sequence of events on the timeline. Knowing that events will happen in advance, he has to make good use of them. After all, it is the second gold finger besides the system. Thinking about it, he got up from the sofa and took a bottle of iced Coke, and after a few sips, there was a slight sound of footsteps outside the door. Josh is back so soon. Lee Z subconsciously glanced at the time on the watch, and only 10 minutes had passed. Boom boom boom. At the moment the knock on the door has sounded. Not Josh. Just a light knock on the door can tell that it's definitely not Josh. Lee Z wondered who would come to him at this point. Wait a minute, here we come. Click. Is there any room available? Outside the door. A perfect woman with long black hair and slender thighs was standing at the door, wearing a red coat with long black hair and a shawl. Her skin was fair, her clear eyes revealed melancholy, and her thin lips were as delicate as rose red. Lee Z looked at the woman outside the door and froze for a moment. Wanda looked at the dazed young man with some doubts, waved her hand and said softly, "Hello, I'm Wanda Maximoff. Is there any room available?" "Yes, you came just in time, and there happens to be another room next door." At the door, Lee Z realized that he was a little distracted, and quickly pointed to the next room. In fact, he can't be blamed for being distracted. It's really surprising that the future Marvel female devil will come to your door by herself. Moreover, Wanda has telepathy ability, able to read the thoughts of others. Lee Z is a little worried that her secret will be discovered. After all, her origin magic power is extremely powerful in mind manipulation. It can even control the way of thinking of the entire universe. Fortunately, Wanda looked gloomy and didn't pay attention to him at all. What happened with Vision hit her hard. But at the end of the episode, I regained my sanity, and then I got hallucinations due to the influence of black magic. Lead to complete demonization. I want to move in today. Wanda said a little weakly. No problem, you can move in after paying the rent. Also, my name is Lee Z. Lee Z didn't refuse, because he knew that if he refused, Wanda would most likely use magic to change his mind directly. This is why medieval Europeans feared witches. They didn't even spare a sexy version of the witch. For you. Wanda was polite enough to see that the young landlord in front of her didn't have any malice, so she didn't do any mind reading, and chose to move in with her bags after paying the rent in a hurry. Obviously, Wanda, who is now immersed in grief, doesn't care about other things at all. When Lee Z returned home, his expression gradually became serious. Although he had expected Wanda to appear, but now that she suddenly appeared, he was a little caught off guard. He knows in his heart that there is no time indicated in the episode, but WandaVision also takes place almost a year after Avengers Alliance 4. Possibly after the events of Spider-Man vs. Mysterio. It's just that a movie is a movie, and now it's reality. Accidents may happen at any time. If Wanda's thoughts are affected and such thoughts are born in advance, the town will suffer. So now Westview may be controlled by origin magic power at any time. When his Westview town hiding place is useless, he doesn't want to live in Gensokyo. Also don't want to give up the bonus of hiding for a year. It's a little troublesome. It seems that the plan is about to start. Lee Z sat on the sofa and pondered for a long time. Talking to himself. Whoosh! A golden light glowed between his open hands, condensing into a protective cover. During this period of time, he has been tinkering with creation magic, and the protective cover is made with creation magic. It's dangerous to walk the streets of America, let alone Marvel's America. Not to mention the World War on Earth. Even the World War in the universe is concentrated in the old and beautiful New York. It's so dangerous, so it's natural to have the whole life-saving thing. Definitely the original creation magic can protect people, but the effect is not as good as the newly created magic. And the point of creating magic is to create new things. As stated in the introduction, it can create everything. Call. Lee Z clenched his fist into a raging fire, wrapped his fist, and opened his hand again to instantly turn into ice. Clouds of cold air filled the space and raged around. Holding the Coke in his left hand, he could see the water molecules freezing at a speed visible to the naked eye. And the touched water molecules in the surrounding air gradually turned into ice cubes and appeared in the air. It has evolved to be able to manipulate elemental molecules at will. There is no accident for Lee Z. This is the power of creating magic. He can control any element in the universe as he likes. All can be used to create desired objects. This time, he created many other new things, most of which are magic and ability: fire, thunder, ocean, and some special weapons, which can also be said to be artifacts. As for the ability to completely distort reality, it cannot be done for the time being. Distort reality and completely changing reality are two different things, because the former is temporary while the latter is permanent. Boom boom boom. A knock on the door interrupted my thoughts. Lee, I'm here to deliver the money. Don't think too much about such a heavy knock on the door. It must be Josh, who just came back from the bank. This guy looks weak, but his temperament is very similar to the first thing his ancestors did when they came to this land. Cruel and vulgar. And who knows what made him look so vain. Remember to be on time next time. Lee Z opened the door, took the money and gave a customary order. Lee, is there someone living next door to you? Josh glanced at the next room, a little surprised. Leave new neighbors alone. Before closing the door, Lee Z saw his little eyes and asked again. He didn't want another lunatic on the street tomorrow. Wanda is not as easy to talk to as before, and no one will end well for those who provoke her. I know. Josh muttered a few words and went downstairs to go home. The other side. On the balcony, Lee Z basked in the sun and lived the life of an elderly person until the sun rose above his head, and he didn't go out to eat again at lunchtime. As a senior 007, he was not good at cooking in his previous life, nor did he have time to cook. There is time after crossing, but the habit remains. Every day I choose to eat at the restaurant not far downstairs. Click. As soon as Lee Z went out, she saw the door of the next room opened, and a woman with a unique and sexy style of white Americans came out. Her perfect body, Duan Yi, was very attractive. Wanda, are you going out too? Lee Z was a little surprised. Well, the gas in the room is not turned on, so go out for lunch. Wanda responded nonchalantly. Sorry, I forgot to wait 2 days for gas. Lee Z realized when he heard this that the gas needs to be turned off when the room is unoccupied, but he definitely doesn't believe that Wanda can't cook. For a magician, creating flames is an easy task. Not to mention Wanda, who can bend reality. At this stage of anger, Wanda can even use origin magic power to rule the entire city, distorting all reality wherever it reaches. As an apology, you can buy me a meal. What Wanda said in front of him made him deeply astonished and surprised. Don't think too much, just eat. As she spoke, she rubbed her hands uncomfortably in her pockets. No problem. Lee Z noticed her movements and immediately realized that Wanda probably had no money. This information did not make him nervous, but relieved. At the same time, it also intensified his desire to save the frustrated woman. Because Wanda did not choose to use magic to solve the problem, it means that Lee Z's previous views were somewhat biased. At this stage, Wanda still has a kind heart in her heart. At least the obsession hasn't started yet. There is still a chance to save everything. Westview Town is a small town with complete facilities. It is more like a town, with a playground and a food street all the way to the end. There are several shops open at noon. There is not much passenger flow, and a few guests are sparsely sitting on chairs. Chinese food. The boss grew up in Huasha and learned good cooking. Lee Z sat down in his usual seat, the warm autumn sunshine shining on his face outside the window. Looking at the woman who was eating food in front of her, she said slowly. I haven't eaten Chinese food yet, but it tastes good. Wanda ate the braised pork in the bowl with a fork, and the corners of her mouth were slightly stained with oil when she spoke. Those bewitching and beautiful eyes revealed the lingering melancholy just like in the movie. Wanda, did you move here for work? Naturally, Lee Z would not let go of such a good opportunity, and chose to ask directly. I have no other plans at the moment, I just want to settle down here. Wanda was slightly taken aback when she heard this, and then changed the subject. You don't know me? You are an Avenger, and I think there are very few people who don't know you. Lee Z replied. I'm not famous, and not all Avengers are popular. Wanda shook her head. In fact, after 5 years of precipitation, I am far less famous than before. In addition, I am not very famous, and few people know it. Definitely asking this is not narcissism, but simply wants to change the subject. But all Avengers are heroes, and sometimes they just can't help themselves. Lee Z watched Wanda subconsciously clench the hand of the fork in her hand, softly comforting her. Thanks. The gloomy eyes of Wanda showed that she didn't want to talk about the Avengers. The environment in Westview Town is good. I heard that many people choose to come here for vacation. Ahem. It's actually a marketing gimmick. Zijing Town is not as beautiful as imagined. Lee Z choked when he heard this sentence. Others can't hear other meanings. As an insider, he feels that Wanda's words are completely like an evaluation made by an emperor after choosing a city. When I was a kid, I yearned for sitcoms, where people have a happy life, they never seem to cry for life, and everything is going well. Wanda said with her beautiful eyes slightly sunken, and sighed deeply. Because they are optimistic and yearn for hope. Li Zi could feel the woman's depressed mood, and even feel the origin magic power in her body, and it became very strange with the mood swings, as if everything around her was being affected. As a time traveler, he knows Wanda's mood at the moment. She grew up in the flames of war, and the environment was dark and gray. Although the sitcoms on TV were black and white, they were one of the few that could bring joy in her childhood. Even Wanda's fantasy world created with origin magic power plays out in sitcom style. Some people say that it is Wanda's call for hope from the bottom of her heart, and it is also her subconscious to ask the world for help. That's why she finally chose to stop. Optimism. Wanda was talking to herself, when something suddenly came to her mind. She quickly wiped her mouth and stood up. Lee, thank you for your lunch, I have to leave earlier, bye. Bye. Li Zi originally wanted to follow out because he hadn't figured out what Wanda was thinking. After all, judging from the current timeline, Wanda's control of Westview Town may happen at any time, and he didn't expect to become someone else's fantasy town hidden away. However, if you follow out rashly, it will definitely arouse the disgust of others. Moreover, this matter will happen for a while, and it is estimated that it is impossible to happen within a few hours. So put it aside for now, and at the same time. Wanda left the restaurant and went to the deserted street and opened her hands. The strange magic of chaos appeared in the palms, wrapped her whole body, and was lifted up and flew towards the sky. In the eyes of outsiders, there are no objects in deep space. Moment. With the help of magic, Wanda came to a building. The building was heavily guarded, and men in black were everywhere patrolling outside with guns in hand. She landed and walked straight towards the interior of the building. When she came to the lobby near the elevator, someone at the front desk spotted her and hurried out to block her, saying in a deep voice, "I'm sorry, ma'am, you can't go in. Step aside." Wanda's tone was indifferent, and a faint reddish light flickered in her eyes, ready to come out. It seems as if it will be poured out in the next second. She's Wanda. Maximov, let her in. At this time, a low voice sounded in the ear of the front desk. Yes. The receptionist looked up at Wanda and said slowly, "Go in." He raised his hand and opened the elevator door. Wanda was puzzled, looking at the camera above her head with indifferent eyes. She felt that the man knew that she was coming, and also knew what she was going to do here. But the other party actually let him in. Moment. The elevator started and carried Wanda down to the underground laboratory. The heavy iron door slowly opened, and a man in a suit and leather shoes was already waiting here. Hayward, director of the Heavenly Sword Bureau. Hayward held out his hand politely and smiled. What did you let me in for? Wanda was a little puzzled. PLZ, follow me. Hayward did not speak directly, but pushed open the door and walked towards the central area of the laboratory. Wanda behind her was puzzled, but still followed through the special glass door and walked into the exhibition hall. Then the sound of mechanical disassembly rang in my ears. Wanda glanced down, then turned to look at Hayward. What is this? Why are you showing me this? Didn't you say before that you want to see him? Hayward responded lightly. Wanda's heart tightened when she heard this, as if realizing something. She turned around stiffly and looked down. If you look closely, you can see a robot being dismembered by the staff, using high-speed cutting tools to cut off all the thighs and arms. As the staff dispersed, the top view finally saw the robot's head clearly. It is a former Avengers member, Vision. It's just that at this moment, he lost his vitality, and the dark red of the previous body also turned gray. Stop. Stop. Wanda witnessed the dismantling of her former love. Her eyes turned red unconsciously, and she asked tremblingly, "Why, what are you doing?" "We are dismantling the most sophisticated and advanced sentient weapon ever created." Hayward looked flat, as if explaining an understatement. "But Vision is not a weapon, you can't do that." Wanda defended inexplicably. "Actually, the Heavenly Sword Bureau is legally and morally obliged to do so." Hayward explained unhurriedly. "I just want to bury him properly, that's my only request." Wanda suppressed the emotions in her heart and said her request. "You sure?" Hayward continued. "Not everyone has this ability to bring their soulmate back online. Sorry, Wanda is not yours, and no one can bring him back to life. I won't let you take this vibranium worth $2 billion and bury it in the soil." Wanda looked at Vision below with a slightly dull expression. Obviously she was not listening to Hayward. For a moment, the eyes of the beautiful eyes glowed with a faint gleam, and the dark red flowed. "I don't know what to think." At the same time. Westview Town, community apartment. Top floor room. The doors and windows are closed. Hum. At this moment, the starlight in the room filled the entire space, and it circulated above the head for a while and gradually converged into a river of stars. Looking at the vast expanse, there are dots of stars all over. The surrounding environment also became quiet and silent, as if in a deserted forest. Hum. Accompanied by the buzzing sound, a ball of light passed by like a meteor. Standing under the galaxy, Li Zi quickly grabbed the spot of light and held it urgently in his hand. He looked at the trembling ball of light in his hand with satisfaction, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. It's done. A few words, Avada Kedavra, emerged from the ball of light that spread out his trembling hands. Avada Kedavra is exactly a killing curse in Harry Potter, a black magic often used by Voldemort. It is also one of the most powerful black magic in Harry Potter and one of the 3 unforgivable curses. Those who are cursed will die without leaving any scars. Kill without a trace. Li Zi created this magic spell by creating magic based on the concept of magic seen in his previous life. Besides, during this period of travel, he also used creative magic to create many previous life movies, or strange abilities and certain items in other works. Such as Devil Fruit, Golden Light Curse, Apparition, the defective version of the Emperor of Heaven, Chinese zodiac charms. These items are all stored in the carry bag. As for the storage bag, it is naturally also a product of creating magic. After coming to this world, Li Zi's daily life is to lie flat, so most of the time is spent creating more magic or items. Anyway, there is not too much ability, and it is even more impossible to have too much life-saving things. At one point he even wanted to create new infinite gems, which definitely turned out to be impossible. Each infinite gems is equivalent to a part of the universe originally, containing supreme energy, and it is impossible to create it with Li Zi's current ability. Call. Li Zi absorbed the light ball in his hand, and looked at the time that several hours had passed. However, Wanda next door has remained silent. It is inevitable that people are a little worried. After all, Wanda may lose control at any time now. But fortunately, there is no perception of any threat for the time being. If it is covered by origin magic power, it is impossible to escape his perception. Moment. Li Zi got up and waved away the bright galaxy above his head, and the quiet and dark room returned to normal in an instant. The closed curtains and windows opened. Boom boom boom. At this time, the door was finally knocked. Is Li at home? With such a heavy knock on the door, it must be that guy Josh without thinking too much. What's the matter with me? Li Zi pushed open the door. The vain Josh stood outside the door, gasping for breath. He seemed to have just run up from downstairs, with one hand resting on the doorframe. There is something urgent. Hurry up, I'm going out to eat later. Li Zi glanced at the time, and it was already dinner time. Shiete, Li, it's only 6 o'clock, aren't all Chinese people 007, the buddy who works with me is almost killing me. Josh slowed down and complained. As a principled person, you must never miss the best mealtime. Li Zi replied lightly. I have a relative who is going to live in Zijing town for a while, but she has no place to live and needs my help. Josh continued. She will be here in a few hours, can you give me a temporary room? It will only take half a month. I remember you had 2 rooms. Li Zi was speechless. That's all? No, I have more gadgets, you know. Do me a favor, I don't want to live with Aunt Agnes. Josh raised his eyebrows. He usually likes to be alone, and he can't accept living with outsiders at all. That's why I rushed to rent a temporary room. Wait. What's your aunt's name? Li Zi caught a name keenly and said with a serious expression. Agnes. Josh froze and replied, is there any problem? No problem, I can temporarily rent you for half a month. Li Zi was sure he heard it right. A dark light flashed in his eyes and he agreed to his request. Because Agnes is the alias of Agatha Nix, she is the witch who appeared in Wanda and Vision, lurking beside Wanda in an attempt to obtain her origin magic power. Now that I came here, there is a high probability that I came here for Wanda. As for how she came to be Aunt Josh, for one of the most powerful witches on Earth. But it was a breeze. As for agreeing to Josh's request, it was simply to keep Agatha in sight so as not to cause other troubles. After all, Agatha's strength is actually comparable to that of Wanda at this stage. Even Wanda would find it hard to detect if he wanted to do something behind his back. Li Zi sent Josh away, closed the door and sat on the sofa. Hey, here comes another trouble. Zijing Town is really not a geomantic treasure. Evening. Westview Town. A Chinese restaurant in Food Street. Li Zi was sitting by the window eating spicy hot pot, looking up from the window from time to time. Even though the autumn cold had made the glass covered with a layer of frost, it did not prevent him from enjoying the sunset. The sky is slightly bright and red, and the setting sun is gradually setting. Not far from the Hubo in Zhenzi Park, The rippling lake surface under the setting sun is reflected crystal clear. Facing the evening breeze, passing passengers enjoy the short-term comfort after get-off work. It's no wonder Vision chose to settle here. In the past few months, Lee Z has seen this scene countless times. After experiencing the afterglow of sunset in 3 seasons, different weather and seasons give people different feelings. Maybe next year will be boring just looking at it. A hand patted on his shoulder. Hey, Lee, thank you for the rental. It's Josh. Lee Z turned his head to look, and the woman behind this guy caught his attention. It was a young woman with a kind face, giving her the feeling of being a good neighbor. But looking carefully at the turbidity of the vicissitudes of life in the eyes, it is also creepy and weird. The woman is none other than Agatha Nix. One of the oldest witches on Earth today, and one of the strongest. From the Middle Ages to modern times, she used different identities to travel around the world to absorb black magic, and even took the lives of countless people, just to obtain black magic to improve her own strength. Oh, forgot to introduce, she is my Aunt Agnes. Josh noticed his landlord's gaze, and immediately patted his head, stepped aside and smiled. Hello. I'm Lee Z, Victor Lee. Lee Z just took a glance and looked away, with a smile on the corner of his mouth. I heard Josh mention you on the way. I heard that you are from Washaw. I thought you would be Jack Chang. Agatha didn't notice the difference, and exchanged a few words briefly. After a while, Josh took her away. The two of them were passing by to say hello and buy a Chinese meal to go back. It seemed that Agatha was planning to try a new dish. Old witch, there is something. Lee Z watched the two go away, sneered and said to himself. But I have to say, Agatha's hidden ability is really strong. She is worthy of being an old witch who has lived for hundreds of years, and quietly became Josh's unnecessary aunt. And without any flaws. It's no wonder that in the series, even Scarlet Witch Wanda didn't notice anything, and was always lurking by her side. It wasn't until Agatha revealed her identity in the end that Wanda reacted belatedly. Everything was set by Agatha. Poor Josh, he's about to become a victim of the witch war. He shook his head. In the Marvel Universe, the lives of ordinary people are the least valuable. A big battle can kill countless soldiers, not to mention unarmed ordinary people. Leaving the restaurant and walking out facing the evening wind, gusts of gentle wind brushed against my face. Wanda? Not long after Lee Z walked out, he caught a familiar figure in the crowd of couples. Among the hustle and bustle of the crowd, Wanda stood alone in the cold evening wind like an object left in a corner, with a dazed expression, as if she had lost her soul. Let the passing crowd push and push, she was emotionally unstable. Lee Z could feel that the origin magic power in her body became more and more chaotic. In fact, in the Wanda and Vision episode, the reason why Wanda would do that is largely due to the influence of origin magic power. After all, origin magic power was originally all about evil and demons. That's why Agatha Nix would want to deprive origin magic power, because it fits perfectly with the Dark God book. Thinking. Lee Z had already walked to Wanda's side, pretending to be puzzled. Wanda, don't you want to go back? The nightlife in Westview Town is the same as most places in America, it's not very good. Indeed, there are many tourists in Zijing Town, and the area is not small. Many local gangsters like to commit crimes at night, robbing tourists or local cowardly people. I just came back from outside and was about to go back. Wanda wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, obviously not wanting to be seen by an acquaintance. It happened to be on the way back together. Lee Z is well aware of at the moment Wanda's feelings, and when she sees her pretending to be strong, she can't help but feel pity in her heart. At this time, he suddenly remembered one thing. It seems that the Tianjin Bureau has a base in a city near Zijing Town. And Wanda left in a hurry today, and came back with more emotional fluctuations. Obviously, she went to the Tianjin Bureau headquarters in the afternoon to look for Vision's body. As a traverser, Lee Z naturally knew that Vision's body had been broken down by the Tianjin Bureau. Wanda is the existence of the perception less than vision, and the emotions are also accelerating towards a complete collapse. Lee Z thought about finding a way to appease Wanda. Okay. Wanda glanced to see that it was late, and nodded. Just finished. She turned her head and saw Lee Z showing a sunny smile. Actually, it's safer to go back with you. Recently, Zijing Town is not peaceful, and people often block the road and rob. Why, you are a man. Wanda made a polite remark. Because you are an Avenger, you have the ability that ordinary people don't have, come and fight one by one. Seeing her answer, Lee Z was relieved. It looked like she wasn't too unwilling to chat, and the situation wasn't too bad. I'm just lucky. My ability brought me nothing, and I still have nothing in the end. When Wanda heard this, her expression became more gloomy and she sighed deeply. Family, lover, friends. In the end there was nothing, Even Captain America, the only good thing ever, was old and passed away a few months ago. No, someday you'll find the good in something. Li Zi said slowly. Benefit. Wanda was slightly taken aback when she heard this, the good thing. All she has now is endless pain. Unconsciously. The two had already walked to the dimly lit street. When the community apartment was first built, the location was relatively remote in order to provide a quiet living environment. Suddenly, there was a sharp sound in the alley ahead, followed by miserable cries and calls for help. Hand over all the valuables, you better be more acquainted. Fac. Squat down. As soon as the fierce sound fell, the sound of heavy objects falling to the ground followed, and someone fell down and groaned in pain. It seems that coming back with you is the right choice. Li Zi was stunned, looked at Wanda beside him and smiled. These robbers are really unlucky. These robbers are really unlucky. As he spoke, Li Zi's eyes fell on Wanda beside him. They didn't expect to meet the Avengers in Westview Town. I didn't expect that Zijing Town was not peaceful. Let's go and have a look. Wanda noticed the sight, hesitated for a while before opening her mouth. Well, teach them a lesson. Li Zi nodded. He knew that Wanda had made this decision, but it was actually very difficult and entangled in his heart. Before that, the Sokovia incident probably still lingers in Wanda's heart. At that time, countless people abused Scarlet Witch, thinking that the Sokovia incident in Avengers Alliance 2 was largely due to the gift of Wanda. In fact, without Wanda, even more havoc would have been wrought. Just as people condemn the destruction caused by the Avengers in the war, they forget that without the Avengers, the Great War in New York would have razed America to the ground. Soon, the two walked into the alley around the corner. In the dark and damp alley, a few unkind young people were pulling the satchels of a mother and daughter. The mother and daughter curled up in the corner and held on to the satchel tightly. Judging from the messy clothes, it was obvious that this group of people didn't just come for the satchel. Witnessing this scene, Wanda's eyes flashed with anger, and her fists were secretly clenched. Hey, here are two more. One of them noticed the two people at the entrance of the alley and grinned obscenely. John, tonight is really a bumper harvest, and this trip to Westview Town was not in vain. I want to make up for all the 5 years that were vacant. The big and thick Will twisted his neck when he saw this, like a black bear staring at a new prey. Brothers, let's go quickly, don't lower the level of law and order in Zijing Town. Li Zi didn't feel nervous in the face of the gangsters. On the contrary, he keenly captured the conversation between the two, and they were not locals. Not all the locals dare to be so arrogant, they simply don't take the local gangsters seriously. Boy, you don't seem to understand the current situation. There was a smile on Will's rugged face, and he whistled. Boom. Next second. At the entrance of the alley, a figure walked out behind Li Zi and Wanda, holding a baseball bat and blocking the way. It seemed that he was hiding in a corner to let the wind out. Well, things are a little different now. Li Zi glanced behind him, patted Wanda's shoulder lightly, and said in a low voice, Wanda, it's up to you. Even the cold-tempered Wanda was a little speechless, and couldn't help but give him a blank look. This guy is so weak that he dares to be so arrogant. Are you not afraid of being retaliated against in the future? At this time, Will's narrowed eyes greedily glanced at Wanda's curvy figure, and sneered, Boy, you really shouldn't have brought your girlfriend here. Sorry, what did you say? Feeling the sight, Wanda's expression suddenly became more gloomy, and the rhythm of her fingertips glowed with a faint reddish light. A few unlucky ones are going to die. Li Zi took a step back, ready to watch a magic show. Bitch, I said. Will didn't notice anything wrong at all, and he was still talking desperately. But the next second, I saw that Wanda's hands glowed bright red, and it intensified, illuminating the entire dark alley in an instant, reflecting the frightened faces of several gangsters. Fac, it's mutant. Feeling the red light on Hui's face, Will and the others staggered back in horror. The mother and daughter who were originally huddled in the corner saw hope in their eyes, and helped each other up. Help us. Shut up. Will holds a gun and is about to hold the mother and daughter hostage. Because he knew that ordinary people would never be able to resist mutant, not to mention that the woman in front of him looked extremely powerful. You bastards deserve to die. Wanda's pupils glowed red, and she opened her arms. Rage's chest heaved violently. It seems that some people really shouldn't be saved, and some people are still stubborn when they come back, ashamed of those who died in the war. The words fell. Boom. Along with the release of anger in his heart, a mass of raging red light gushed out towards the few people in front like a tide. Wherever he went, the whole alley trembled. The red light swept across and knocked several people to the ground abruptly. The red light quickly spread throughout the body like a flame. Ah! Get out of my head! Will fell to the ground with bulging veins on his forehead, holding his head in his hands and screaming heart-piercingly. However, the magic that contains Scarlet Witch's anger and pain, after eroding the brain, no one can resist it, and it can even make people die in nightmares. The mother and daughter who were hiding in the corner hurriedly avoided for fear of being hurt by his crazy appearance. Wanda, you are so strong. Rear. Li Zi is also a top magician, so he can clearly feel the strength of the origin magic power. It's no wonder that Wanda, who has studied the Dark God book, was able to transcend reality and travel through the multi-universe in just a few months. Go to hell. Just as he was thinking about it, the person who was in charge of releasing the wind at the entrance of the alley came back to his senses, and directly pulled out the gun at his waist and aimed at Wanda in front of him. Just as he was about to pull the trigger, the fist in front of him had already fallen. Boom. What's wrong? Wanda heard the movement, turned her head and saw the last gangster passed out on the ground. He made a sneak attack, but I knocked him down with a punch. Li Zi explained with a smile, I used to learn kung fu when I was in Huasha. Everyone in China knows how. Wanda is puzzled. No, Li Zi didn't know how to explain it, and the stereotype problem couldn't be explained for a while. Then he walked towards the few people who were still lying on the ground moaning in pain, opened the cuffs, and found that they all had the marks of gangsters on their bodies. Secretly write down these imprints. He turned to look at Wanda. Wanda, leave it to the police. His purpose is to get Wanda out of the predicament, and it is better not to do murder. With Wanda's temperament, if she killed someone, she might be more affected by origin magic power, causing some irreparable situations. Wanda nodded. She just stunned a few people and retracted her magic. The mother and daughter who had been hiding in the corner ran out in a hurry, and the woman said gratefully, Thank you, ma'am. If it weren't for you just now, the consequences would have been disastrous. Easy to do. Wanda was very thankful, and couldn't help but smile with a warm heart. Thank you, sister. The silent little girl behind the woman also poked her head out, thanking her in a childish voice. You're welcome. Hurry up and go home with mom, it's not safe outside at night. Wanda couldn't help reaching out and pinching the little girl. She couldn't put it down. Her eyes were full of love for her pink face. See you later. After finishing speaking, the woman didn't dare to stay longer. She took her daughter and left in a hurry. Wanda stared at the backs of one big and one small, gradually disappearing at the end of the alley, and it took her a long time to look away. Wanda, look, sometimes ability can also bring some benefits to people. Li Zi came over and said softly, he had a perception that Wanda's mood swings were not so intense. Although it has not been fully recovered, it has at least been eased. Wanda recalled the words of thanks to the mother and daughter just now, her eyes flashed with warmth, and said slowly, actually, few people would say thank you to me, except the Avengers and Vision, especially after the Sokovia Agreement. Then she stopped talking and changed the subject, let's go back first, the police will deal with them. Seeing that she didn't continue talking, Li Zi didn't pursue her further. He knew that to make Wanda make a psychological change, he should not be too hasty, but take a long-term plan and take it slowly. Community apartment. Li Zi bid farewell to Wanda and returned home, turned on the light and went to the balcony. The deep sky outside was completely dark, and the night was dotted with stars. The cold wind blows in the autumn night, and the curtains rustle with the wind. Occasionally, there are passenger cars passing by downstairs, heading for the entertainment venue in the center of the town. Outsiders always like the nightlife in Westview Town, because they have not been beaten severely. Call. Li Zi took a deep breath, went back to the house and locked the doors and windows and drew the curtains to block the wind and moonlight outside. It was dark and windy, and he had something to do. The gangsters from other places actually came to Zijing Town. With a wave of Li Zi's hand, several knife-wrapped tattoos appeared in front of him. They were the tattoos of those gangsters just now. Such unique tattoos probably came from a certain gangster. In the past, he didn't bother to deal with the gangsters, because they didn't owe each other and didn't provoke them. However, he has already offended those people tonight, and he probably will seek revenge tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. American people hold revenge very much, let alone American gangsters. Then there will be another problem. So it's better to start early, as long as the enemy is gone, there will be no more trouble. Found you. For a few seconds, Li Zi's divergent spiritual thinking network has already captured the people with knife tattoos in the entire Westview Town. The warehouse area in the east is indeed a gangster. A dark light flashed in his eyes, which turned into golden light and disappeared out of nowhere, leaving only a few stars twinkling in the air. Westview Town East Warehouse. There are almost no people around the remote East Warehouse, and the security team also gets off work in the evening. Only the guard stays in the monitoring room. Therefore, many gang members like to trade secretly in the East Warehouse, and many of them are gangsters from out of town. And at the moment, A spacious warehouse room, brightly lit and full of noise, a dozen figures moving back and forth carrying items. Hurry up. Haven't you eaten yet? Quick, move your things to the car and go back to sleep. Put things lightly. The big man with rough appearance for the head urged sharply. The deputy next to him whispered, Boss, John hasn't come back yet. Fake, this damned guy. Just run out to play with people who are short of manpower. When Neri heard this, he was obviously very dissatisfied with John. If Jinbin's goods cannot be delivered on time, all of us will suffer. Bang! Just as he was speaking, a huge amounts of sound echoed in Curry. What happened? Neri immediately heard the reputation, and it turned out that one of his subordinates accidentally dropped the goods on the ground when they were carrying them. It also caused a deep hole in the cargo box. He suddenly turned blue with anger, and his subordinates were more stupid than the other. Be careful, boy. If you sprinkle a little white flour, I will throw you into the river to feed the fish. It's not the boss, this product is wrong. This box is much heavier than the previous one. The men argued. What's the meaning? Nirui walked up suspiciously, kicked the wooden board of the cargo box and then it cracked, and a lot of objects fell out. However, what fell was not flour, but a pile of stones. Fake. Boss, they actually used stones to fool us. The assistant's eyes widened when he saw this. He had never seen such a shameless person in the industry for many years. He was reluctant to buy flour, and directly used stones to fool them. Damn, the local gang is so rude. Neri grabbed a handful of stones and threw them on the ground angrily. Boss, what should we do now? The deputy's forehead was dripping with sweat. This was Jinbin's goods. If something went wrong, they would all die. Hey, are you looking for these? At this time, a lazy voice came from the direction of the truck parked behind, also revealing contempt. Who are you? Nirui turned his head and saw a tall and thin figure appearing on the roof of the car at some time. The man was wearing a black rune mask, and was holding a large bag of white noodles, which should have been in the cargo box earlier. He was relieved when he saw Bai Mian, and then his eyes turned cold. Boy, so it's in your hands. Hand it over. The words fell. More than a dozen people around raised their long guns one after another. The cold and dark muzzle pointed at the man on the roof of the car. The bullets in the gun chamber could kill him at any time. Everyone, calm down. It just so happens that I have a new thing that needs to be tested. I just want to try it with you. If I can survive, I will exchange the thing for you. The person who came was Li Zi. He arrived half a minute ago, so he was in no hurry to make a move. He wanted to try the newly created Avada Kedavra from the world of Harry Potter, which could kill people without leaving any traces. Kill him. Nirui didn't talk nonsense, and directly ordered to shoot. Hey, Avada Kedavra, Avada Kedavra. Li Zi shook his head, conjured a magic wand out of thin air, swung it suddenly at the surrounding people and shouted. Hum. Whoosh. Instantly. Several bright rays of light flew out like meteors, forming a strange arc across the air, hitting several people who lowered their guns one after another. Buzz. Bang bang bang. At the moment when the light came into contact with the original living people, the breath of life in their eyes was slackened, and they fell to the ground one after another and completely lost their breath. And there are no marks left on the body, not even the slightest wrinkle on the clothes. How? How is it possible? Neri's eyes were full of disbelief, and he backed away tremblingly. After witnessing the instant death of his subordinates, he seemed to lose the arrogance he had just now. Now all he has in his heart is the fear of death. A little strong. Li Zi was also a little surprised. Just now he tried to launch multiple shots, but he didn't expect it to be successful. Perhaps the creation magic is too powerful, and the Avada Kedavra created is far more than the version used by Voldemort. After all, Harry Potter's fighting power is far from being comparable to Marvel's. Definitely that is a very magical world, devil. At the moment Nirui tremblingly took out his gun, wanting to sneak attack while Li Zi was thinking. Don't worry, it's your turn. Li Zi noticed his movement and waved his hand casually. Next second. The last person fell with it. I almost forgot to restore the scene first. Li Zi waved his hand again, and the broken box returned to normal, and the bullet casings on the ground disappeared. After confirming that there were no flaws, he turned around and disappeared in place with a golden light. Not long. As the doorman passed the warehouse, he noticed the open door. After the doorman walked in suspiciously, he was horrified by the lying corpses all over the ground, and his legs almost collapsed to the ground. Help. Dead man. Soon the siren blared loudly throughout the east warehouse, and the police came to the scene quickly and searched all the bodies, but found no problems, not even any injuries. Everyone seems to die strangely. This night, the Zijing Town police station is doomed to be restless. Definitely tomorrow's newspaper headlines will also make the entire Westview town uneasy. This is going to be one of the big unsolved cases of the year. But except for one person, she saw the problem at a glance. Next morning. The sky is reddish and the belly is white, the yellow leaves of the autumn trees are rustling with the wind, and the people of Zijing Town start a new day with the sunrise. But today's atmosphere is obviously more serious than before. Boom boom boom. Li Zi has a regular schedule. He gets up early, but someone knocks on the door early in the morning. It was Wanda who came, and she brought two men in suits and leather shoes who claimed to be CIA agents to investigate the murder. Li, please explain to me, the two of us came back together last night, and we didn't go anywhere on the way. Wanda spoke first. Sorry Wanda, please allow me to ask questions. One of the agents interrupted Wanda, then looked at Li Zi in front, and said in a deep voice, Mr. Li, there were many casualties in the East Warehouse, and their people had a conflict with you yesterday. Is it those little bastards? Li Zi was slightly taken aback. He understood that the agent who claimed to be a CIA agent in front of him was here to investigate the case of the gangster's destruction last night. As for whether the two people's true identities were members of the CIA, it was open to discussion. However, the two now suspect that Wanda was responsible for the deaths of those gang members, because she is the only one with such a weird ability in Westview Town. Kill without a trace. According to the accounts of the two, the police investigated the scene all night and found no clues, even after restoring it through professional technology. Concluded that these were all sudden deaths. Obviously some kind of supernatural power. Wanda was with me last night, she didn't go anywhere. Li Zi told the truth, but not quite. After all, he killed the man, but neither the CIA nor the Tianjin Bureau could possibly suspect him. Mr. Li, you were responsible for what you say. The CIA agent stared at the young man in front of him seriously, hoping to see the suspicion of lying from his micro-expression. However, the other party did not lie. Immediately, he exchanged glances with his companions before continuing. Wanda, I would like to ask you to go and have a look at the scene. The Avengers have the responsibility to take over this task. No problem, but he's going too. Wanda pointed to Li Zi and asked someone to accompany her, simply because she didn't want to perform the task alone. Hearing this, Li Zi was also a little surprised. No problem. The CIA agent hesitated for a while, and immediately nodded in agreement. Anyway, a large crowd of reporters gathered at the scene of the crime. Even though it is now blocked, many photos have actually been circulated. It doesn't hurt to have one more Li Zi. Not long. The CIA agent then drove the two to the warehouse. Once there, the warehouse was surrounded by a cordon, and the police had been patrolling back and forth. Simply show your credentials. Li Zi and Wanda were brought into the crime scene. Without any clues, it was a perfect crime. Detective Inspector Gordon of the police department, who was also involved in the investigation, explained from the sidelines. The CIA agents have been standing behind to observe the expressions of Wanda and Li Zi. For a moment he asked Wanda, who had been scouting the scene, did you see anything? I didn't feel anything. He hid it too well. Where's the body? Wanda asked. Wanda, you seem to be on the right track. Seeing her serious appearance, Li Zi couldn't help but smile slightly. It seems that doing more other things can distract Wanda's attention. I just want to do my best, Wanda replied. In fact, she is very resistant to participating in any action now, but seeing such a tragic killing in the town where her family will live in the future. She couldn't just sit back and watch, intending to take it seriously. Some haven't been shipped back yet, they're in the police car outside. Inspector Gordon on the side took the call. Without delay, everyone came to the transport vehicle outside the warehouse, the door was open, and a white cloth was lifted to reveal the pale corpse. There were no scars on the body. The forensic doctor dissected the two remains and found no disease. They are all in good health, and there is even a comparable athlete. Detective Gordon was full of emotion, the surrounding surveillance did not find any problems. Perhaps a supernatural event. Li Zi added, looking at the CIA agent again. The CIA agent ignored him, but looked at Wanda. What did you see? No, they died like normal. Wanda shook her head. She really didn't see anything. There wasn't any dark matter or other energy bodies in the scene and in these bodies. If there is, it is impossible to escape her perception, and even the soul of the owner of the body has no reaction. The two CIA agents looked at each other. One of them said slowly, I'm sorry to bother you two, you go back first, by the way. This is a poisoning incident, Gordon, you should understand? Clear. Inspector Gordon didn't have any hesitation, and it was the first time he encountered a supernatural event. He knew that such things should not be revealed at will. Moment. Everyone left the scene of the crime one after another. The police temporarily blocked the warehouse completely, and the surrounding roads were not allowed to pass. However, with such a tragic murder case, it is impossible for anyone to dare to pass here. So it didn't take long, except for the police officers guarding the warehouse wall. There was no one else living in the entire East warehouse. However, no one knew that in the empty barn curry, a rabbit jumped out of the corner. Next second, the rabbit spit out a ball of black aura, and the black aura gradually condensed into a human form. It's a woman. Poison. She looked around and took a deep breath, and said with a sneer, "Oh, I'm afraid this is not the masterpiece of some necromancer." If Lee Z were in this place, she would definitely recognize this woman as Agatha Harris Nix. Unlike Wanda. Wanda has no origin magic power, but has never learned any spells, not even a decent magic book. Unlike Agatha, she read countless books, so she could tell at a glance that this was clearly done by the necromancer. But, damn it, I can't feel where you are. Agatha also couldn't feel the owner of this breath, she just felt a breath of mana, and found nothing else. The other party's magic attainments are higher than hers. Why on earth did you come? Wanda. Origin magic power. Agatha muttered to herself, and then her eyes turned hard. She must not let anyone take away the origin magic power, such a powerful energy should belong to her, she was born for magic. I'll find you and make you a puppet. Her face was a bit ferocious, her hands gathered black energy, and with a strong wave, her whole body turned into a black aura and disappeared. Boom. Outside. Noticing the strangeness, the police rushed into the warehouse, but found that there was nothing inside. It's strange, I heard someone talking. Coffee shop. Aren't you afraid? Wanda, who was sitting opposite, revealed doubts on her delicate and melancholy face. Few ordinary people can remain calm in the face of such a thing. You are Scarlet Witch, the strongest Avenger. Why should I be afraid when you are here? Lee Z asked back. I am the strongest Avenger, who said that? Wanda was taken aback, no one had ever said that before. It seems like no one in the Avengers is bored enough to talk about it, except for Tony and Thor, who sometimes grapple with such childish and boring topics. For example, Thor once wanted to set the voice authentication to become the strongest Avenger. Now he's a big fat man. Witches are generally the most powerful in the organization. Lee Z opened his eyes and spoke nonsense, but the strongest Avenger told the truth. Scarlet Witch is indeed the highest combat power of the Avengers at present, and Thor is not as good as her. This is a fact. After Wanda practiced the Dark God book, she even became the top fighting force in the 9 realms. If Avengers Alliance 3 Wanda met Thanos first, how could Avengers Alliance 4 reverse the future later? Thanos, who even the big 3 couldn't do it, let Wanda alone be enough. No matter how strong ability is, I can't feel his existence. Wanda was a little absent-minded as she spoke, and she couldn't help thinking of going to the Heavenly Sword Bureau yesterday, and seeing Vision being dismantled. She tried to perceive the existence of Vision. Unfortunately, Vision is like a pile of scrap metal, without any response. Wanda, you need to move on. Lee Z was always paying attention to her mood swings, and found that the origin magic power in her body was still extremely unstable. However, there is no trend to erupt. Look forward? Wanda looked at the sunny young man in front of him with a serious expression. He always gave her a very comfortable feeling and took her feelings into consideration. If Lee Z knew what was going on in her heart, she would probably say bluntly, "Get out of my hiding place first, we are good friends." Lee, I didn't expect to meet you so early, shouldn't young people be sleeping at this time? At this time, the bell rang at the door, followed by a slightly surprised female voice, with a friendly tone. Good morning, Agnes. When Lee Z heard the sound and looked around, he saw the person he least wanted to meet. Agatha Nix. The old witch always had a considerate smile on her face, and no one could tell that she had killed her own mother with her own hands. Agatha's eyes fell on Wanda across the table. Is she? Wanda, my resident and neighbor. Seeing this, Lee Z sneered inwardly. The old witch probably started thinking about Wanda since she arrived here yesterday. After all, origin magic power is too attractive for a witch. That is the power of the Scarlet Queen in mythology. Hello, Wanda, I just remembered you're the Avenger, superhero. Agatha couldn't wait to step forward and hold Wanda's hand. Hello. The sudden intimacy made Wanda a little flattered, and she let the other party hold her at a loss, which may be the reason for the lack of care since she was a child. She admitted that this strange new neighbor gave her an inexplicable affection. Aunt Agnes, where's Josh? Lee Z was a little speechless, and the old witch didn't need to be so anxious. He almost wrote the words, "I want chaos," on my face. He stayed at home. The poisoning incident this morning made him a little worried and he dared not go out. When Agatha talked about the poisoning incident, an imperceptible glint flashed in her eyes. That guy most likely came for Wanda's origin magic power. Fortunately, she came into contact with Wanda in advance. As the saying goes, those who are close to the water get the moon first. It's all fighting between gangs, and things like this are common in America. Lee Z spoke intentionally or unintentionally, and at the same time, she was keenly aware of the emotion in Agatha's eyes. It seemed that the old witch probably knew it wasn't an accident, but she didn't find any clues, otherwise she wouldn't have come here in a good mood. Those brutes don't deserve to come back from Blink, they should be gone forever. Wanda's eyes were cold, and she made sacrifices to her comrades in exchange for peace. As a result, someone destroyed the beauty of the prosperous age. Sometimes you have to admit that there are only a small number of good people in the world, and only those with dark hearts can grasp things that ordinary people can't get. Lee Z took 2 sips of coffee, raised his eyebrows and looked at Agatha. "And Agnes, do you think so?" When Agatha heard this, if she hadn't been sure that Lee Z was just an ordinary person. Otherwise, she really felt that the young man in front of her deliberately used these words to tease her. After all, she would do anything to obtain supreme power. Those dark histories even became a disgrace to the witch world. "I almost forgot, Lee, I need your help with something." Wanda didn't talk about that topic again, but suddenly remembered something. She took out a blueprint from her pocket. "Actually, I have something to do in Westview Town. I have an unfinished house on the west side. I hope you can help me find a construction team, and you can mention the remuneration terms as you like." Lee Z took over the drawing, which contained a simple house structure diagram and a transparent love heart in the middle. Obviously, the owner of the drawing had polished it countless times by hand. "Love is almost gone. May I?" Wanda spoke expectantly again. Originally she planned to use magic to build. But after thinking about it, it's not appropriate. It's too weird for ordinary people, and no one wants to be seen as a freak. Naturally, Wanda didn't want to either. "No problem, but are you sure, as long as I complete the construction, any conditions can be raised?" Lee Z couldn't help but smile. "Definitely." Wanda's mind was a little pure, she didn't hear the meaning of the words, she nodded, her beautiful blue eyes revealed clarity and melancholy. "The 2 of you, I left beforehand and have time to chat." Agatha was left alone by the 2 of them, unable to get in a word, so she had to find an excuse to leave first. Wanda has now been found and successfully contacted. There are still many opportunities waiting for her in the future. Don't worry about it for a while, origin magic power will become her pocket sooner or later. West of Westview. A forest of peach blossoms grows here, but in autumn, the peach blossoms on the trees are gone, and there are only bare trees as far as the eye can see. "You really plan to build the house here?" Lee Z left the coffee shop and followed Wanda to the site where the house was built. He looked around and saw that the area was remote and sparsely populated. "This place is a bit deserted. I think you should change to another place. After all, people live in groups, and neighbors will give you a sense of security." "Aren't you my neighbor? I may not live in this house." Wanda looked at the open space in front of the peach grove, her melancholy eyes revealing complexities. The cold wind forced her to put her hands in her pockets and rub them to keep warm. "Well, I'm also worried about losing a tenant." Lee Z smiled. He clearly couldn't persuade Wanda, because the address of the house was chosen together with Vision. People always like to borrow things to think about their feelings, and have a thought. What's more, for Scarlet Witch now, it has only been a few months since Vision's death, and the sadness in his heart has not dissipated. Later, though, Wanda also relieved Vision. "Lee, this matter will trouble you." Wanda looked at the young man beside her. The reason why Lee Z was asked for help was that there were not many friends left around her, and everyone left one after another. Awakening, the Avengers organization has also fallen apart. The only Hawkeye I know has also retired. The only one I know now is Lee Z, and he feels very good about himself. Maybe he treats everyone like this, he likes to think differently and look at problems from the perspective of others. "No problem, but I hope you don't go back on my terms," Lee Z said in a teasing tone. He didn't find it troublesome. He had hired a construction team during the renovation of the community apartment before, but it was just a phone call, and Scarlet Witch's trust and favor could be exchanged. "This is equivalent to doubling the value." "Well, as long as it's not too much," Wanda replied. Since the weather was a bit cold in the morning, the 2 of them didn't stay any longer, and soon returned to the community apartment. They did not take a car to go back on foot, and returned to the block near the apartment in about 20 minutes. It may be the so-called poisoning incident, which caused no one to go out on the street today, and the tourists who gathered yesterday also disappeared today. One case hit the local tourism industry hard. Once there was a murder case in Florida, which directly caused the local tourism industry to enter a cold winter. Lee Z couldn't help being a little embarrassed seeing this. After all, he was the chief culprit in the poisoning incident. But those who died were all gang members, and the poisoning case will probably be forgotten soon. Lee, you are finally back. This is the rent money from Aunt Agnes. At this time, Josh, who had just come downstairs, saw him and ran over immediately. What are you doing over there? Lee Z took the money bag and noticed that in the square not far from the apartment, many people were setting up the stage, with banners and colorful balloons hanging up around it. I heard that he is a big philanthropist in New York. Mr. Wilson is going to come here to do charity. The mayor couldn't wait to set up the stage. After all, the poisoning case scares many people, and Mr. Wilson's arrival can just make up for the loss. Josh said it all in one breath. But Lee Z obviously didn't listen to the words behind, his attention was all on Wilson. The great philanthropist Wilson from New York. There is only one person who can be called a great philanthropist in New York, and that person is the underground emperor of the New York underworld, Wilson Grant Faith. Daredevil's #1 nemesis. Lee, what's the matter? Wanda noticed that he was taken aback, and asked in doubt. I was just thinking the town's luck might be on its way. Lee Z replied. To be honest, Jin Bing's methods in the underworld are very cruel, but he has done a good job in charity. After all, he is a real capitalist and an underground emperor who is all-powerful in the underworld. Naturally, he needs to master both black and white contacts and full strength, so as to consolidate his position. But Jin Bing's visit this time is likely to be a poisoning case. The leader of the group of gang members mentioned Jin Bin yesterday, and it was obvious that Jin Bin wanted the goods. Interesting, Zijing Town is really a place of geomantic omen. A few heavyweights are coming. Lee Z complained helplessly in his heart. It was really a chain reaction. Fortunately, Jin was not threatening. The real trouble was the old witch Agatha. Maybe, I should create some puppets and let them do things for me. With this thought in mind, he immediately bid farewell to Wanda and went home. He sat on the sofa habitually and glanced at the ever-increasing time bar on the system interface. Increase bit by bit. I don't know when the triple frame will start. Lee Z pondered the direction of the timeline. No surprises, no butterfly effect. 3 bugs in the same frame will still happen. And he has come all the time, so he naturally doesn't want to miss the 3 insects in the same frame. As a senior Marvel fan, he also wants to witness the 3 insects in the same frame with his own eyes. Hopefully it will be a year later, otherwise I might miss it. Lee Z's tone was helpless. Then with a wave of his hand, the doors and windows were suddenly closed and shut, and a scene like an ocean of stars suddenly gathered above his head. It enveloped the whole person, as if in another world in an instant. Lee Z is not worried about being noticed by Wanda and Agatha, because the magic of creation almost isolates everything from the outside world. Even if outsiders break in, they can't see anything. Make what? For a moment, he thought of a cool organization in his previous life, Shadow Corps. An organization composed of shadows, they obey the master's orders, similar to an agent organization, and can do anything. Moreover, they come and go without a trace, so it is difficult to be found. At the moment, in the living room, the endless sea of stars and stars enveloped the top of the head, as if the surging ocean contained infinite power, and there were bright stars all over the place. Call. Lee Z is bathed in a strange light, which is not the case with creating magic. It's just that he is personally used to this mode, and often creates an atmosphere wrapped in stars. After thinking for a moment, he slowly closed his eyes to feel the power around him, and cleared all the thoughts in his mind. Information about the Shadow Corps gradually emerged in his mind, because the film and television of the previous life did not explain too much about the Shadow Corps. Therefore, when using creation magic to conceive concepts, most of them are derived from the concepts he imagined. Create magic in the user's imagination, perseverance linked. In fact, it is somewhat similar to the Green Lantern's ring, except that creating magic is far more powerful than the ring, and it can even distort the reality of the universe. And there is no limit to what can be created: magical elements, objects, substances. Anything can be created. The clock on the wall turned and made a sound, and the time passed by every minute and every second. With Lee Z's mental manipulation, the sea of stars above his head gradually became turbulent. He couldn't help but frown. From a certain point of view, the Shadow Corps is not difficult to create, because their strength is not strong enough. It's kind of insignificant in the Marvel universe. However, the ability characteristic of the Shadow Corps is enough for the moment. Whoosh. Finally, after a whole morning, the turbulent sea of stars above his head fluctuated violently, and a white ball of light emerged and flew out. It's done. When Lee Z looked up and saw it, he stretched out his hand and grabbed it. The ocean of stars that created magic above his head disappeared, and the living room instantly returned to its original state. Then he spread his hand, and the words appeared in the ball of light in his palm. Shadow core. As long as you integrate this ball of light, you can have all the shadow core. Soldiers of the core can turn into shadows and shuttle over any object as they like. They are the embodiment of shadows. As long as shadows can exist, they will exist. There are 9 different mentalities in the Sombra, divided into 9 different warbands, so their abilities and fighting styles are also different. But one thing is always the same, the Shadow Core will always be completely obedient to the summoner. Try. Li Zi talked to himself, squeezed the ball of light in his hand to absorb it into his body. A warm current swam through his body, but he didn't feel anything else. However, when he had a thought, he waved his hand casually. Whoosh. I saw a few figures rising from the shadow of the room. Looking carefully, all of them were dressed in ninja suits, and their eyes were slightly red, like killers in the dark. Boom. A few people appeared, and they immediately stepped forward and bowed their heads to pay homage. Ninja group. Li Zi muttered. Wearing ninja costumes in front of him is one of the 9 major core, and also the original Black Shadow Core. The strength is quite satisfactory, neither weak nor strong. But it can hide in the dark. Boom boom boom. Before Li Zi had time to summon other troops, he heard a knock on the door. What is Agatha doing here? His eyes shone slightly, and he saw the situation outside through the iron gate. The person outside the door is the old witch Agatha. Li, there's something wrong with the faucet in my room, it doesn't come out. Agatha knocked on the door anxiously and shouted. Click. Aunt Agnes, isn't Josh here? Li Zi pushed open the door and came out wondering. He's not here, can you take a look for me? Agatha was a little powerless, as if she was really helpless. Li Zi didn't believe the old witch's words in his heart. As a senior magician, Agatha had the ability to solve problems by herself without any help. If something goes wrong, there must be a demon, and the old witch may be thinking about other things. But as a landlord, you can't ignore it. In the end, he could only nod his head, no problem. You are a good person. Agatha had a satisfied look on her face when she heard the words, but when she turned around, her eyes flashed, an imperceptible dim light, revealing a little sinister. The two soon came to the second room downstairs. At the beginning, there were not many suites left, so Li Zi could only arrange Agatha on the next floor, so that it would be convenient to monitor the old witch's movements in the future. It's like it's blocked, it's not moving at all. In the kitchen, Agatha pointed to the faucet on the sink. Probably something wrong with the valve. Li Zi opened the toolbox, took out a new faucet, and planned to replace it with a new one. Li, you and Wanda seem to have a good relationship. Agatha behind her asked happily. Actually, we just met yesterday, and we just became friends today. Li Zi was taken aback for a moment, and then realized that the reason why the old witch came to her was to use her to get close to Wanda so as to achieve her goal. Really, but I see that you two stay together a lot. Wanda's mood is very weird. I can see that she doesn't really like being in contact with others. Agatha smiled as she stared at the young man with her back turned away. Her left fingertips were slightly bent and glowed with black aura, and she walked forward and said, "You seem to be special." Actually, isn't that what friends do? Li Zi took a deep breath. The old witch really has a problem. When he was bored in the past few months, he created a lot of magic and some weird and special abilities, including a holographic eye. Able to see things at 360 degrees around him, and accurately predict all threats. Therefore, he saw Agatha's movements and the black aura's left hand at a glance. Friend. Hey, ordinary people can never imagine what kind of existence Wanda is. Agatha sneered in her heart. Wanda may have chaos force in her body, which is the energy from the god of black magic. She came here to get chaos force, so she continued, Li, I want to ask you for a favor. As he spoke, he raised his hand, and the black aura gathered in his hand roared like a ghost. The energy contained in black aura is enough to turn a person into a puppet. Agatha's purpose is very clear, which is to control the people around Wanda and help her monitor the latter. After all, she didn't dare to do anything before she caught Wanda's handle. She is not sure against origin magic power. Boom. However, just as Agatha was about to make a move, the door of the room that had been concealed was knocked open, and several ghostly shadows rushed out, then broke through the window and escaped. What happened? Li Zi turned around abruptly and looked at the broken window. It seems that someone rushed out just now. Agatha was also taken aback, but fortunately she stopped before being seen. All gone. But the black shadow that flashed past just now made her look solemn, and she hurried to the window. There was nothing outside, nothing at all. She was absolutely sure that the black shadow just now existed, and the broken window was also real. You know, this is the height of an 8-story building. Those shadows just disappeared. Aunt Agnes, let's call the police first. Behind. Li Zi waved his hand lightly, and a few black shadows in the corner sank to the ground and disappeared. That's right, the Sombra just now was actually the Sombra core. Fortunately, there is the Shadow core, otherwise it would have been exposed. He wasn't afraid of Agatha, and that little trick couldn't hurt him. The only worry is that his strength will be exposed, and all the previous efforts in hiding during this period of time will be in vain. Agatha nodded. She was in no mood to pay attention to Li Zi after going through this incident. Instead, he looked out the window with gloomy eyes. Is it the main messenger of the previous poisoning incident? She didn't go to find the other party. This damn guy actually found her head. Well, offend the mightiest witch on earth, and you'll pay for it. Wanda and Origin magic power, you can't get neither. The efficiency of the Zijing Town police station was very fast. It didn't take long for the sheriff to bring people to the scene, cordon off the scene, and start collecting evidence at the scene. Lee, what happened? Upstairs, Wanda heard the movement and went downstairs, and saw the police taking notes for Li Zi and Agatha. Someone is lurking in Agatha's room. Li Zi's expression revealed fear, as if what happened just now had nothing to do with him. My God, this is too dangerous. Luckily you are not hurt. Wanda widened her eyes slightly when she heard this, and walked over worriedly. Although she is not an Avenger, she is also a girl at heart, and she will be surprised and worried when she hears such things. After all, someone can sneak into the house without their knowledge. Don't worry, those guys seem to be only robbing money. Li Zi smiled easily, but it means that the security measures in the apartment are too poor. It seems that we need to find time to improve the security facilities. Agatha next to her didn't answer the conversation, and she didn't bother to pay attention to the young landlord. Her mind was full of thoughts about the shadows that flashed just now. Combined with the poisoning incident, she is almost certain that the black shadow just now came from the same person, and it is very likely that he is also a black magician. Sorry to bother you, Ms. Agnes. Everything you said is here, and nothing is missing. At this point, a police officer interjected. That man is not for money. Then why is he? Li Zi was at a loss. Maybe it didn't succeed. Since nothing was lost, let this matter pass. I won't file any lawsuits, and you don't need to investigate. Agatha knew that everything was done by another black magician. It doesn't make any sense for ordinary people to investigate. It's better to let her use backtracking magic to check the scene herself. Aunt Agnes, are you sure? Wanda was a little worried. Well, if there is no loss, there is no need to bother. Agatha smiled generously. Wanda saw her say this all the time, and didn't persuade her anymore. She chose to respect the other person's choice. Most people in America don't like being judged. They yearn for freedom. The police simply cleaned up and left the scene one after another. They like to meet victims who are not held accountable. This can save a large part of the workflow. As for Li Zi and Agatha, the latter refused to ask the construction team to repair the windows. Agatha said that she could find someone to fix it, and she said she would take a rest, so that the two of them could leave with peace of mind, and there would be no problems by themselves. Then let's go eat first. Wanda didn't see any problem, turned her head to look at Li Zi and said, please eat, you treated me at noon yesterday, and today I treat you. Good. Li Zi was a little surprised by the invitation. He thought it would be difficult to get the depressed Wanda to take the initiative. Looking at it now, his previous prejudice against Scarlet Witch seems a bit big. Maybe Wanda wasn't as bad as he thought. The two still chose the Chinese restaurant yesterday. On the way, Wanda thought the braised pork was delicious, so she wanted to have another meal. Come to food festival. It happened to be noon. In the past, there was a lot of passenger flow during this time period, but today due to the poisoning incident, the passenger flow was much less. The owner of the restaurant is from Washaw. He said that he will wait for Mr. Wilson to come here to hold a charity event tomorrow in order to suppress the limelight. Without Wilson's charitable activities, it is estimated that this matter will not be able to pass for a long time. Li Zi felt a little ashamed when he heard these words. I didn't expect one thing to cause such a chain reaction. It's a little surprising that it's true. This is simply the butterfly effect. But fortunately, the effect did not make Wanda lose control in advance. What's on your mind? Seeing him in a daze again, Wanda blinked her melancholy brows, stared at him and said, you seem to be in a daze often. Because I'm good at thinking, Li Zi said solemnly. You make me feel very strange. We only met yesterday, but you seem to have known me for a long time and know my situation. Wanda's expression turned serious. She noticed this morning, and when she thought about it carefully since they met yesterday, Li Zi gave her the feeling that she had known each other for a long time. But she clearly remembered that the two had never met face to face. As the owner of telepathy ability, the effect of origin magic power makes it impossible for her memory to have any confusion, and it is impossible to forget. But origin magic power gave her a feeling that the two seemed to know each other. Wanda, I haven't been to the Avengers base, maybe it's just fate. A natural smile formed on the corner of Li Zi's mouth. I don't believe it unless you let me try it with telepathy. Saying that, Wanda didn't wait for him to refuse, stood up and bent over to touch his temple. This is one of the reasons why she invited Li Zi back to dinner today. Ahem. No problem. Li Zi was a little surprised. He didn't expect Europeans and Americans to be so open-minded, and they actually took action directly. He felt the softness of being attached to him. The nature of a man made him look down. He can only use one word to describe it: rough waves. I won't hurt you. After Wanda finished speaking, her slender and smooth hand was already pressing on his temple. Li Zi smelled the tangy aroma and slowly closed his eyes. There was a trace of scarlet light on the fingertips of those hands, constantly invading and wrapping around Li Zi's temples, like a pair of hands, constantly stroking his head. Makes you feel very comfortable. Wanda on the opposite side also closed her eyes. Next second, her eyes suddenly went blank, and her soul successfully entered Li Zi's spiritual world. All of Li Zi's memories are stored here. Open your eyes and look at the world in front of you is blank. The floor under your feet is as white as snow, and the sky is hazy like heaven. But for a moment, as the surrounding haze gradually dissipated, patches of gorgeous forests rose from the ground, and tall trees shot straight into the sky. Is this Li's spiritual world? Wanda's pretty face showed surprise. She was mentally prepared before entering, knowing that Li Zi is an optimistic person. But after witnessing the fantasy forest in front of him, I couldn't help but feel a lot of emotion in my heart. His state of mind. Wanda strode forward, animals shuttled between the woods, and memories of Li Zi emerged in the woods swaying with the wind. The content of the memory is the experience from childhood to adulthood. Every memory can be seen, even if it is hidden in the deepest part of the heart, or forgotten by the owner. Under the influence of origin magic power, it can still be unearthed. Memory has joy and makes people laugh. There is also pain, which makes the tip of the nose sore. In my memory, Li Zi grew up in a California orphanage. She lacked care since she was a child, and other children and friends were adopted one after another. And he could only witness his friends leave, and the people around him left one after another, but no one wanted a yellow-skinned Washaw. It wasn't until the age of 18 that Li Zi was able to leave. Definitely waiting for him is still alone. It turned out that he had a bad life. Wanda's expression was touched, and the loneliness contained in the memory of the other party made her feel a little empathetic. But as the memory deepens, what moved her even more was Li Zi's character, who always maintains an optimistic attitude. In the face of difficulties, he always looks forward. This optimistic personality even once affected Wanda. He had such a bad life, but he could always face everything with a smile. Because of Wanda's special spiritual ability, she clearly felt Li Zi's optimistic attitude, and those optimistic attitudes hidden in her memory constantly affected her. The depression that had been accumulated in her heart for a long time was gradually resolved at this moment. At the same time, in reality, Wanda frowned suddenly, and her exquisite fair face revealed complex emotions, including entanglement and confusion. Next second. Call. She opened her eyes suddenly, took a step back and sat back in the chair, panting heavily. Wanda, are you okay? Li Zi opened his eyes and saw Wanda with a ruddy complexion, leaning on the chair and panting, and was immediately worried. Because before Wanda entered his spiritual world just now, he had already made precautionary preparations, and all his memories had been tampered with. Exactly. After meeting Wanda yesterday, Li Zi compiled a complete set of life memories. But the status of an orphan is real, and he did grow up in an orphanage in his previous life. In addition, he expected the situation today. He also used his optimistic personality as the theme of the spiritual world, hoping to change Wanda's melancholy mood. But at present, I don't know if this trick is useful for Wanda. After all, origin magic power is not vegetarian. I'm fine. Wanda breathed a sigh of relief, and the fluctuating emotions in her heart could not be calmed down for a long time. The attitude towards life that I felt just now has been echoing in my mind. She was actually affected subtly. Thinking of her looking up at the sunny young man in front of her, he always has an inexplicable appeal, as if a person who walks in a dark alley all the year round can feel the sunshine under his influence. I thought you cast a witchcraft spell wrongly. In movies, witches cast spells wrongly, and they will suffer backlash. Are you sure you're all right? Li Zi gestured a few times, and finally said the purpose. It's all right, and I'm not a witch. I haven't touched magic books. Doctor Strange may be more suitable for the title of necromancer. Wanda didn't say how she feels in the spiritual world, but she has to admit one thing. The optimistic attitude of Li Zi's spiritual world made her somewhat relieved of the current depressed situation. Perhaps, she should really look forward. Let go of everything in the past and look forward. The rest of the lunchtime was spent talking between the two of them. After eating, Wanda still has doubts in her heart. She doesn't see any problems in Li Zi's memory, but the other party chats with her, but every time she can talk to her heart. The two have just met each other not long ago, but they seem to be friends who have known each other for many years. Because Li Zi can always find something to talk about. It's a pity that Wanda will never be able to understand. The Washa people sitting opposite understand her better than anyone else. Lunch is over. Li Zi had nothing to do and went home as usual, while Wanda said that she had something to do and would not stay in Westview Town tonight. He thought about this for a long time, but he didn't think about what Wanda was going to do. After all, the span between the timeline and the events of Wanda and Vision is a bit long, and there is also a long blank period in between. It is impossible for him to take care of everything, and now Wanda's mood has gradually stabilized, and the uncertainty of the origin magic power outbreak in his body has been reduced. So now there is no need to worry too much about Wanda getting out of control. Back to the community apartment. Li Zi found that the windows of Agatha's suite had been fully repaired, and he could imagine that the old witch had done it with magic. He didn't care. The only thing worth caring about was the accident that happened today. Agatha tried to use black magic to control him, almost exposing his ability. If it weren't for the Shadow Core, his hiding would have ended long ago. The ticking time bomb, Agatha, must be dealt with quickly. Li Zi walked out of the elevator thinking about it, when a rabbit who didn't know where it came from appeared in the corridor bouncing in front of him. Da da da. The rabbit jumped a few times, stopped and stared at him with scarlet eyes. The atmosphere is a bit weird. Where did the rabbit come from? When Li Zi was in doubt, Agatha's voice came from behind. Mr. Sholich, why did you come here? Aunt Agnes, is this your rabbit? Li Zi suddenly remembered that Agatha had a pet. In the comics, she kept a black panther as a pet, but the universe kept a rabbit. Obviously, this rabbit is not simple either. Just kept staring at him. Well, sorry for letting it get out. You wouldn't suggest this little guy, would you? Agatha petted the rabbit with a kind smile on her lips. It's okay, Aunt Agnes, I'm a little sleepy, see you later. Li Zi is too lazy to talk nonsense with her. He has always had the habit of taking a nap, but he doesn't want to miss the nap time because of the old witch. Click. Bang. See the door close. Agatha didn't stop wasting time, and walked downstairs with the rabbit in her arms, stroking the rabbit constantly. You think there's something wrong with the landlord, Lee? The rabbit in his arms moved spiritually. He's fine, I've checked and no one can hide from my eyes. Okay. Now we should look for that guy hiding in the dark. He might ruin our business if he stays here. So let's send him away first. Next morning. Westview Township Community Plaza. At the moment, the time was only 8 o'clock, and there was a sea of people in the square, including locals and tourists from other places, and everyone's faces were full of joy. At the entrance directly in front of the square, there is a circular arch with the words charitable donations written on it. Many temporary camps are set up in the rear, and numerous entertainment facilities and food are provided to those who participate in charity fundraising activities. Lee, I really didn't expect Mr. Wilson to come to Westview Town for a fundraising event. He is a big shot in New York City. Josh's eyes fell on the poster not far away. The picture was a tall and mighty fat man with a pair of sharp eyes that made people awe-inspiring. Wilson seemed to be famous, a lot of people knew him. Li Zi got up early in the morning. As a daily lay-down salted fish, he was in a hurry, so he would naturally come to charity events near the community to join in the fun. What surprised him was that Josh, who usually slept until noon, woke up so early today to participate in the event. It seemed that he had slightly underestimated Jin Bing's influence. Lee, he is a great big shot, he has donated countless money, the company has also driven the state's economic development, and he is a perfect husband. Josh explained excitedly. I see. Li Zi was a little surprised, and it's no wonder that the Hawkeye drama set gold and dared to kill people in the street. With his wrist, he doesn't worry about being sanctioned at all. He doesn't look very nice. Wanda next to him looked at the poster and said slowly. She just came back from out of town and happened to be in time for a charity event. Having lived in poverty since she was a child, she planned to participate in the fundraising event. Helping other people makes her feel better. Face doesn't mean everything, you can't judge people by their appearance. Passers-by were a little displeased when they heard this. The rest of the passers-by also showed dissatisfaction. Obviously, most of the people present were in awe of the famous philanthropist Wilson. Many people came to this charity fundraising event because of Wilson's face. Otherwise, who would care about a small remote town? Sorry, my friend made a slip of the tongue. Li Zi smiled apologetically, and hurriedly pushed Wanda away. The eyes of those people just wanted to eat them alive. The hype of Jin Bing's character set was very successful, and most people fell into the trap. Lee, my intuition has always been accurate. Wanda added dissatisfiedly that she owns telepathy, which can see all kinds of people clearly at a glance. You should stop talking nonsense, Mr. Wilson has a high prestige. Josh, who was following behind, muttered something, then raised his head and his eyes lit up, and exclaimed, "He's coming." It really is him. Lee Z heard the sound and looked over the crowd to the central stage, where a tall and mighty fat man stood there. Different from ordinary fat people. He looks extremely solid, giving people a sense of standing upright, and he walks with authority every step of the way. He is indeed Wilson Fix, New York philanthropist, famous entrepreneur. At the same time, he is also the New York underworld, the underground emperor who covers the sky with one hand. As soon as Jin Bing came to the stage, countless people below applauded and cheered. Josh on the side also shouted. Sharp. Lee Z muttered, Jin Bing's skills are already top-notch among ordinary people. Both black and white are mixed together. You think he's great? Wanda was puzzled to hear this. No, I mean he is very good at demagoguery. This guy is not a good person. Lee Z was slightly taken aback. Why did the witch care about his thoughts? Wanda nodded in agreement. When I was wandering the streets with Pietro, the gang leaders gave me the impression that they were very similar to Wilson on stage. Speaking of this, she looked down. The old things are in the past. Lee Z comforted. He knew that Pietro was Quicksilver, Wanda's younger brother, and they had smuggled to America together. Forced to participate in Hydra's experiments and gained great power. However, Quicksilver fell in Sokovia's hail of bullets. It turns out that you are all here. I thought everyone was on vacation. At this moment, Agatha came over from behind. She seemed to be in a bad state of mind. Her eye bags were slightly swollen, and she was holding a rabbit in her arms. The guy's red eyes had been locked on Lee Z. Aunt Agnes, does your rabbit like me very much? It keeps staring at me. Lee Z noticed this, reached out and rubbed the rabbit's head vigorously, making it squeaky. Mr. Scalage is a little afraid of strangers. Seeing this, Agatha's heart ached and she took a step back. Sorry, I just like small animals too much. Lee Z looked at the rabbit and smiled, pretending to be embarrassed. He prefers to eat braised rabbit heads. The rabbit in Agatha's arms noticed the sight and shrank into her arms in fear, but her master didn't care. That was a little helpless. I didn't sleep well all night because of what happened yesterday. In fact, she looked for the owner of those dark shadows all night. She is convinced that there were other magicians in town. But one night, nothing. That guy is hiding too deep. I will strengthen security as soon as possible to prevent such a thing from happening. Lee Z nodded to show that he took this issue very seriously. At this moment, Wilson's speech was gradually coming to an end, and most of the participants in the audience applauded excitedly. Mr. Wilson's presentation was fantastic. Josh has also been watching intently. But at this moment, no one noticed that several cars were approaching outside the square. When it was approaching, the leader's car accelerated suddenly, like an out-of-control falling rock suddenly collided and turned into an afterimage. Careful. Lee Z turned his head and saw the situation, and hurriedly pulled Wanda and the others away. And at the moment, whoosh! The car had already rushed to the square at an extremely fast speed, and the surrounding people were knocked to the ground, and then the car windows were opened, and several pitch-black gun barrels were exposed. Next second, boom. The cold muzzle of the gun was instantly ignited, and countless bullets flew out, sweeping towards everyone in the square indiscriminately. For a while. Sudden situation. The scene was like a boulder falling into a pond, and everyone in the square fled in panic in an instant. The sense of fear spread rapidly like a virus, tearing apart the original festive atmosphere. Kill Wilson, don't let him go back to New York. In the van. A big man squatted in front of the window with a gun in his hand. He pressed the trigger like crazy, and roared loudly. The people in the car all came rushing towards the gold, and all shot wildly at the big man hiding on the stage, and the mindless shooting also caused many innocent people to fall. But they don't care. F*K, go to hell. Boom. Deafening gunshots resounded through the square, the rain of bullets swept through the dense crowd, and scarlet blood mixed with wreckage splashed. Ah! Run! My God, there is a terrorist attack. In an instant, the crowd set off a wave of screaming and crying, and their fear made them flee desperately. Some people even don't care about their companions who are lying in a pool of blood. It's a member of the gang, behind a sausage vending cart. Just now Lee Z noticed the abnormality, and reacted very quickly to pull Wanda and the others to hide behind the bunker. His eyes fell on Jin Bin on the stage. They should be pretending to be Wilson. Why? Mr. Wilson didn't provoke them. Josh broke out in a cold sweat and slumped on the ground in horror. You will know later. Li Zi frowned. He is in a bad mood now. Come to participate in a charity event. Unexpectedly, you will encounter a fight between gangsters, and he was caught in the middle. You have to get out of this dangerous place quickly. I'll take care of these beasts. Wanda came back to her senses and saw several people lying in a pool of blood. Her clear eyes blazed with anger. She stood up abruptly, her fingertips glowed with a strange scarlet light. Hide well, don't come out. Almost forgot, the strongest Avenger is here. Li Zi was taken aback for a moment, he just remembered that Scarlet Witch was still there. It seems that he hasn't gotten used to the existence of witches yet, and has actually forgotten about the strongest Avenger. Chaos Force. No one noticed from behind. Agatha stared at the scarlet light on Wanda's fingertips. The greed in her eyes was hard to conceal, and even gradually became ferocious. That is Chaos Force, the power of the god of black magic. Anyone who gets it can become the supreme magician. But now the origin magic power is in a damn girl. What a waste, she has sullied the god of black magic. You have failed those who died in the Great War, you are not worthy to live in this world. At the moment Wanda had strode out, and as she twisted her hands, an endless power burst out suddenly, scarlet light gushed out like a tide. The billowing scarlet waves centered on her, overwhelming the surroundings. The entire square was instantly enveloped in scarlet light, immersed in a strange atmosphere. The deep space above everyone's heads was also cloudy in the blink of an eye. The bullets that had been fired from the van were also blown back by the waves. Boom. In the next second, countless bullet holes appeared on the surface of the car, wisps of white smoke filled the air, and the attackers in the car also lost their movement. What happened? Everyone, we are saved. The fleeing crowd stopped and found that everything had returned to calm. It's the Avenger, Wanda the Witch, Wanda Hale. Someone recognized the woman who came out slowly, she was obviously a member of the Avengers. They are saved. After making sure that there is no movement in the van. Everyone's faces showed the joy of being alive after the catastrophe, and some people were so happy that they cheered for Wanda. It is also cheering for the rest of the life after the catastrophe. Definitely there are also people who are still in shock, talking about sitting on the ground for a long time and unable to recover. Wanda was a little uncomfortable, she didn't expect these people to be so enthusiastic. Wanda, you saved them. Li Zi saw the surprise in her eyes, stepped forward and praised. Besides, you can manipulate magic more freely, and you will become a powerful magician in the future. She's not a magician, is she? Agatha sneered when she heard this, a person who had never even touched a magic book. How is it worthy of the title of magician? I really don't count. Wanda didn't take that to heart, and she wasn't doing magic either. Who said that you are very capable, and 1 year is better than others for 100 years? I have heard that some old witches will not make any progress in 100 years, and you guessed that they are in their 20s. When Li Zi said this, she didn't pay attention to Agatha, who was narrating, and the rabbit in her arms, her eyes gradually became gloomy. Ma'am, thank you for your help just now. On the stage. Jin Bin stood up from behind the bunker and strode down. He who had been through the hail of bullets just now seemed to be a normal person. It seemed that what happened just now was just commonplace for him. You're welcome, I'm just doing what I have to do. Wanda is not willing to pay attention to Jin Bin, he feels very evil to her. Mr. Wilson, it is our negligence, we will never have. At this time, the sheriff arrived in a hurry with his men. The situation was urgent just now, and his men were violently attacked before they could react. The attackers were clearly prepared. They figured out the way of the police and successfully avoided all searches. Mr. Sheriff, there are no second chances. Jin Bing looked fierce, he came here to investigate the shipment. Yesterday, the people responsible for transporting the goods all died tragically in the East Warehouse, and the informants placed by the government did not provide any clues. That's why he came in person. It's just that I didn't expect someone to attack me in public. Mr. Wilson. The sheriff suddenly lost his mind, and the mayor had asked him several times before his business trip. This charity event can increase the reputation of the town and drive economic development. Now everything is messed up. When he lost his mind, he caught a glimpse from the corner of his eye. The car door was suddenly opened, and a man covered in blood staggered out of the bread that was full of bullet holes. With a bomb wrapped around him. This scene. Countless people around have noticed. Fact. What's going on? This guy is fine, he has a bomb on him. Everyone shouted and cast their eyes on Wanda. Hiss. Here movement. Wanda turned her head to look, and saw a dying man with a ticking time bomb on his body. Seeing this scene, she froze in place and didn't reach out to throw it away. She was a little helpless. Because such a familiar scene made the memories hidden in her heart emerge again. Was on a mission with Captain America in Germany. Her misstep resulted in dozens of deaths and indirectly caused the Avengers to fall apart, leading to Captain America and Tony's parting ways. Everything was ruined by her. Wanda. Seeing this, Lizzie perceived her emotional fluctuations, and immediately thought of the witch's previous experience. The witch is again affected by the origin magic power. Origin magic power is powerful, but not easy to control. Easily affects the mind of its owner, leading to a series of tragedies. The later Wanda is the most typical example. Never mind. Agatha will definitely not make a move. Lizzie took a deep breath, and with a thought, several black shadows in the shadow of the street corner turned into human figures, like ninjas under the moonlight. In full view. Whoosh! Several shadow ninjas rushed over to pick up the big man, and when the time bomb exploded, they disappeared into the darkness. Move fast. In less than 10 seconds. Who was that just now? A ninja. I didn't see clearly, but they took the bomb away. Everyone was dumbfounded, including Wanda, who came back to God. And the only one who was angry and shocked was Agatha. He's nearby. He's been there, but where did this guy hide? Agatha Nix scanned the surroundings anxiously, hoping to find suspicious persons. At the moment, the rabbit in his arms struggled. Mr. Skalaj. What did you say? Agatha looked down at the rabbit in her arms, and then seemed to hear the answer. You said, the most calm person is the person behind the scenes? Talking. She swept her gaze and finally landed on a person. Hosted by Lizzie. The handsome oriental young man stood there with a calm face. No surprise could be seen on his face, as if everything was normal for him. Someone once said that the calmest person at the scene of a murder, if he is not a law enforcement officer, then he must be the murderer, because only those who do it with their own hands will not have emotional fluctuations. Definitely this sentence only applies to professional killers. And the person who can avoid Agatha's tracking many times is naturally impossible to be an ordinary person. Mr. Strachey, you may have guessed. Agatha's eyes fell on the indifferent young man, and the rabbit in her arms was also staring there, with strange emotions in her scarlet eyes. At the moment, no one noticed their expressions. Many people at the scene hadn't recovered from the unexpected situation, and their faces were still in shock. If it weren't for those black shadow ninjas just now, this place might have been overturned by the explosion. But how did the shadow ninja appear? They disappeared into the shadows of the street corner in the blink of an eye just now, but in broad daylight they were like ghosts, coming and going without a trace, just as weird as a witch's witchcraft. For a while, everyone at the scene turned their heads to look at Wanda in unison. It was the witch Wanda who saved us. She saved us twice. My God, it's a good thing the Avengers are here, otherwise I can't imagine what would happen. Hear what those around you are saying. Wanda was at a loss. She was affected by the origin magic power just now and couldn't concentrate at all. In an instant, several black shadow ninjas appeared and took away the big man carrying the explosion. Wanda, you also said you don't know witchcraft. Lizzie, the culprit next to him, pretended to be surprised when he saw this. Lee, I didn't do it. Wanda shook her head. I was distracted just now. Speaking of this, she also realized a problem, if not her own. Doesn't that mean there are other magicians in town? Or other super abilities? But from the current point of view, those people have no malicious intentions, otherwise they would not have taken action at such a critical moment to save the people in this square. Don't be modest, I said you would be a magic genius. Lizzie didn't give her a chance to explain. After all, the vast majority of people at the scene knew that Wanda was a witch. No matter how hard she was to argue, many people still believed that she saved everyone. Many people came to express their gratitude for this. The charity event had to be cancelled due to the unexpected situation that caused countless people to be injured at the scene, and some even fell into a pool of blood. As the person in charge, Jin also said that he is willing to bear all the losses. A festive charity event ended in tragedy. Back on the road. Those black shadow ninjas are really not mine. Wanda took the credit inexplicably, and felt a little sorry. Lizzie nodded nonchalantly, and then said, the construction team you want has already been contacted. Take them to the construction site later, someone will help you design everything. Good. Seeing his casual reply, Wanda knew that this guy definitely didn't believe it, and felt a little helpless. Aunt Agnes, do you want to come with me? Lizzie looked at Agatha behind him and asked. I really want to go and see, but there are some things at home that haven't been dealt with, so I'll see you later. Heard the words. After Agatha shook her head and said goodbye, she turned and walked towards the community apartment. And no one noticed that when she turned her back, black aura flashed across her blue pupils, like an old witch in an ancient castle. After returning to the suite of the apartment, standing in front of the window, she looked at the two figures that were gradually disappearing on the street in the distance, and her tone gradually became cold. Lee, who are you? an ordinary person, or a black magician. The words fell. Agatha in front of the window disappeared, and in a blink of an eye she had arrived at Li Zi's suite upstairs. Looking at the ordinary decoration of the suite, she put down the rabbit in her arms. Go, Mr. Strachey, find evidence of his identity. At the same time, in the city closest to Westview Town, a tall building stands in the most conspicuous position in the city center. There are no high walls around it, but few people approach it. Office on the top floor of the at the moment building. Supernatural incidents have occurred continuously in Zijing Town in the past 2 days. Just now, mysterious black shadow ninjas appeared in the West Square. Surveillance captured them being able to hide in the shadows. The director of T-Engine Bureau, Hayward, sat on a chair and looked at the report in his hand. Since S.H.I.E.L.D. fell apart, T-Engine Bureau has gradually taken over supernatural incident cases in China, and Vision is also the project that took over from S.H.I.E.L.D. Westview? Isn't Wanda in town? Yellow-skinned Agent James. Wu asked. Director, do you suspect that Wanda did it? This possibility is not ruled out, so you will go to Zijing Town to investigate this matter in the next period of time. The East Warehouse inexplicable death case, and today's ninja incident in the shadows. Hayward glanced over the man and woman in front of him. No problem. James. Wu is a yellow-skinned Oriental, but he prefers to challenge difficult things. I follow the organization's arrangements. Monica Rambeau also said no problem. Good luck. This is Wanda's current address. You can choose to live in the same building. Hayward dropped a file. There is a name written on it, which is Li Zi, landlord of Building 1 of Zijing Town Community Apartment. Afternoon. Westview Town. After Li Zi and Wanda finished their lunch, he returned home. Has anyone been here? However, when he walked to the door of the room, he noticed an abnormality. The strong light sensitivity made him perceive that there was a strange atmosphere inside the door. Click. After pushing the door and entering, the living room was empty, and everything looked as usual. Ah. But Li Zi smiled. Agatha, you really found the problem. That's right. He perceived Agatha's breath. The old witch had just come here not long ago, but she didn't seem to find what she wanted, so she left directly. To this, Li Zi was not surprised. He had noticed Agatha's unusual behavior when he was in the square before. After all, Agatha was also an old witch who had lived for centuries. If he hadn't suspected it, he would have even suspected that he had encountered a counterfeit. As for the old hag, didn't choose to expose it directly. It's because she hasn't found any evidence yet. Because so far, Li Zi's system has not given any prompts, which means that the other party has not proved his identity, which is not considered exposure. It seems that we have to find an opportunity to solve Agatha's trouble. Go through this thing. Li Zi knew that he had to find an opportunity as soon as possible to get rid of the time bomb of the old witch. I need to execute her quietly. Thinking, he started to create magic, thinking about things that could come in handy from his past life memories. Compared to Wanda, in fact, Agatha handled it better. The difference in strength between them is one origin magic power. Agatha has no origin magic power protection. It is not difficult to execute her, just find a suitable thing. By the way, the art of spiritualization, it can also kill invisible. The art of spiritualization is an S-level forbidden book that Konoha has completely lost. It can separate the caster from the body, transform into a spirit body, and manipulate long-range enemies. It can even destroy the enemy's body. It's a bit similar to Doctor Strange 2, Wanda's way of crossing the multi-universe. However, the technique of spiritualization is a weakened version. However, it is indeed an assassination book. Moreover, anything created through Li Zi will be greatly enhanced on the original basis, and anything created can surpass the original. For example, in the previous Avada Kedavra, the original version could not achieve multiple bursts. What he created could do it. Let's start. Li Zi said, waving his hands. The familiar sea of stars spread instantly and quickly occupied the space above the head. Spiritualization. A new concept started to be created with Li Zi's idea. The sea of stars enveloped the living room with the doors and windows closed, and the stars were shining all over the place, giving off a faint gleam. All afternoon, Li Zi is immersed in the magic of creation, and sometimes the process is deeply miraculous, feeling the waves of elements around her, as if everything in the universe is under control. But the afternoon passed. Li Zi failed to complete the creation of the art of spiritualization. The technique of spiritualization is different from that of the Shadow Core. The concept of the former is more complicated than the latter, not to mention that in Marvel, the spirit technique created is naturally stronger than the original version. In other words, he just borrowed the concept of spiritualization technique. In fact, creation is a completely different technique. Therefore, the time to create the art of spiritualization has also been increased. Besides, what he has to deal with is Agatha Nix, the most powerful witch on Earth who has lived for centuries. The strength should not be underestimated. It looks like it will take at least 20 days to complete. At night, Li Zi returned home directly after eating, and took out the light ball of the spiritualization technique. After perception, he found that there are still many flaws that need to be improved, so he let go of the light ball and planned to continue tomorrow. Anyway, it can't solve the problem for a while. As a qualified salted fish, Li Zi can't spend all his time on it, and occasionally needs to lie down. Man is born to live, not just to live. Sitting on the sofa drinking a drink and watching a favorite movie before going to bed is undoubtedly one of the best things about enjoying life. One of the 8 arts of film. It is the greatest invention of mankind in the 20th century. A good movie can guide the audience's thinking and infect the audience's emotions. Same with literature. Besides, the aesthetics of the film are also pleasing to the eye. But Li Zi prefers to watch movies to fall asleep. Lying on the sofa, he gradually became sleepy, his eyes were blurred, and finally fell asleep. Boom. The clock on the wall showed that it was 6 o'clock the next morning. A knock on the door pulled Li Zi out of his sleep. He checked the time, and it was half an hour before the alarm clock rang. Early in the morning. Who is it? Click. Excuse me, is there any room available for rent? Opening the door, a man and a woman were standing outside the door with suitcases in hand, smiling. The reason why you knocked on the door so early is to rent a house? Li Zi's expression showed dissatisfaction. The most annoying thing in the morning is being woken up without the alarm clock ringing. Sorry, Mr. Li Zi, I'm James Wu. I just arrived in town today, and I need a room urgently to disturb you so early. James Wu replied with deep apology. James Wu? Li Zi was slightly taken aback when he heard the name, and then he became sober. He recognized the yellow-skinned man in front of him. He was a former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. After the collapse of S.H.I.E.L.D., he joined the Heavenly Sword Bureau. Become part of the investigative team. The dark-skinned woman with curly hair next to her is Monica Rambeau, who is also an agent of the Heavenly Sword Bureau. Both appeared in Wanda and Vision. Good guy. Now all the people from Tianjin Bureau have come to him directly, and they want to rent a room in his apartment. Does this building have gravity? First bring Scarlet Witch, then Agatha, then Agent. Don't know who will be next. But since he came, Li Zi would not refuse, and immediately took out a key from a cabinet at the door. There is a room, you go and put your things first, and just come back later and pay the rent. He is not short of money, but the house is empty, so it is better to rent it out. There is a high probability that the agents of the Tianjin Bureau came for the supernatural events in these 2 days. Li Zi didn't care too much about it. After all, they are ordinary people after all, without the slightest threat. Thanks. James Wu took the key in a daze. This landlord is a little too talkative. Send away the 2 agents of the Heavenly Sword Bureau. Li Zi was no longer sleepy. After a simple wash, she went to the coffee shop for breakfast. She didn't call Wanda, and the witch hadn't woken up yet. After breakfast, return home to start creating magic. The process is not too boring. After all, doing something depends on the meaning that people give to things. Some people can get excited watching a football game, but they feel bored watching LOL video games. That is dislike in the heart, when a person likes to do something. No matter how boring he looks, he can still enjoy it. Li Zi is like this now. The morning was fleeting. In the afternoon, he didn't continue, but chose to play games for entertainment. During the period, when James Wu from the Tianjin Bureau came to him to pay the rent, he asked many things around him, most of which were related to Wanda. Apparently, the Heavenly Sword Bureau believes that the supernatural event has something to do with Wanda. No one linked those 2 things to Li Zi. Li Zi is happy to see such a situation. Next. A month's time. There were no recreational activities in Zijing Town, so Li Zi spent the morning as usual, using creation magic to continuously improve the spirit transformation technique of the magic version. Afternoon entertainment. Or being pulled out by Wanda to chat and take a walk. After getting along for more than 10 days, the witch took the initiative to find him more and more frequently. In the eyes of outsiders, the 2 seemed inseparable. Good news for Li Zi. Wanda's depressed mood had gradually dissipated, and it was obvious that his previous strategy had worked, and his optimism had affected the witch. In a while, there should be no need to worry about her getting out of control. As for Agatha Nix, the old hag still comes to him, definitely every time he's with Wanda. The old witch still hasn't found any evidence or clues, and she didn't choose to directly test her face and reveal the bottom line. As long as Li Zi's identity is not verified, the system will not judge that the concealment has failed. However, it can be seen that Agatha has regarded Li Zi as a competitor, and is worried that the other party will take away Wanda's origin magic power. Especially when she saw the two of them together, she secretly wanted to tear Li Zi apart. Time flies by. A month passed in a flash. One evening, Li Zi had just finished the game when he heard a reminder sound in his head. Ding. The host successfully hid for 9 months, please continue to work hard. Ding. The host successfully hid for 9 months, please continue to work hard. Another month has passed. Li Zi took off his earphones and listened to the notification sound echoing in his mind. He immediately felt better. One step closer to hiding for a full year. As long as he persists for the last 3 months, he can unlock new rewards. Looking at it now, apart from the uncertain factor of Agatha, there should be no other problems. And during this period of time, Li Zi has almost perfected the spirit transformation technique of the magic revision, and it won't take long to get rid of the old witch. As for Wanda, she has stabilized recently and her grief over Vision's passing has faded. After all, her original relationship with Vision stems more from Mind Gem. Wanda ability comes from Mind Gem, which leads to a certain kind of bond between the two, making them feel connected. It is said that it is a feeling of love, but it is not entirely counted as it. In addition, whether origin magic power will get out of control will be known later. This stuff was originally complicated. There are many theories. Some people think that origin magic power is the means used by the god of black magic to seize the body. Anyone who absorbs origin magic power will become the container of the god of black magic, and will eventually be possessed in the flesh. Some people also think that the origin magic power possessed by Wanda in the Marvel 199999 universe has nothing to do with the god of black magic. Everyone speaks their own words. This may be the charm of the Marvel multi-universe. Li Zi stood up from the computer desk, stretched his waist, and his face was full of helplessness. At this stage, Marvel has quickly evolved into a multi-universe, and the 3 insects in the same frame are one of the best representatives. Think about it. He suddenly remembered one thing, almost forgot Little Spider-Man. The Spider-Man 2 Heroes Expedition and the incident of Mysterio also happened in the recent time period. Now that Wanda controls Westview Town, there is a high probability that it will not happen again. So Little Spider-Man has now become one of the objects of judgment and the direction of the timeline. Li Zi quickly sat down and searched. There are many news about the return of Little Spider-Man, punishing evil and promoting good in New York. Other than that, no other big events happened. The flickering event created by Thanos made countless people disappear in annihilation, and at the same time, it also greatly reduced crime incidents. The chaotic world rarely enters a short period of tranquility. But now it was just the tranquility before the storm. After the short period of tranquility, countless people's suppressed emotions were gradually released. Lead to a series of events. Little Spider-Man's upcoming new opponent, Mysterio. Just a young man oppressed by the world. Utilizing Stark's technology, he's desperate to get the world's attention in order to convince everyone that he's the next Iron Man. In order to achieve his goal, he even did not hesitate to destroy the city and kill innocent people. This was done only to enhance his aura, and he was indifferent to the life and death of others. Definitely just like this, it is also destined not to become a real superhero. Still didn't happen. Li Zi was talking to himself, and suddenly remembered something. I seem to have forgotten that high school starts in September. Little Spider-Man should go to Venice in September. He suddenly remembered that America High School started in September, and in order to reintegrate people who had disappeared for 5 years into the campus, many schools organized school trips. Let's get to know each other again. And Peter Parker's school is to let everyone go to Venice, Italy to study. The time period in which the event may occur has been straightened out from the beginning. The first thing that could happen right now is the Spider-Man Mysterio event. Then to Wanda and Vision, and 3 insects in the same frame. Doctor Strange 3 is at the end, which means that the multi-universe is fully opened at that time. There should be no omissions. After sorting out the sequence of events, Li Zi looked at the time. It was past 6 o'clock, and it was time for lunch. He was thinking about what to eat next. Boom. There was a soft knock on the door. Li, are you home? It's Wanda the witch. Or go out to dinner together. Li Zi opened the door and asked habitually. In the evenings these days, the witches would take the initiative to come to the door and invite him to go out for dinner. Would you like to eat alone? The corners of Wanda's cherry-red mouth could not help but draw a curve, and her clear eyes were less melancholy and more optimistic and joyful. I'd rather be with beautiful ladies. Li Zi took his coat and asked, or go to a Chinese restaurant. Except for that Chinese restaurant, they haven't been to other restaurants, mainly because they are used to the taste and it is difficult to make changes. Moreover, the chef's cooking skills in that restaurant are very Chinese. The dishes, in one word, are authentic. No, I want to invite you to my house for dinner. Wanda hesitation said slowly for a moment. Go to your house to eat? Hearing this, Li Zi was slightly taken aback. Seeing this, the witch hastily added, just to thank you for taking care of me this month, especially for that house, you were the one who contacted the construction team. Li Zi on the opposite side was still slow for a long time. Say so much in one go. Why'd I always feel that people feel guilty and are making excuses? Don't worry, my cooking skills are not bad. Seeing him stunned, Wanda hesitated for a long time before uttering a word. In fact, she didn't know why she invited Li Zi. Perhaps because of Li Zi's care during this time, Wanda felt that he should make it up to him. I don't know when it started. Wanda gradually found that she seemed to have an indescribable feeling for this handsome and sunny young man in front of her. Perhaps it was his attitude towards life that affected him during the 1 month time we spent together. Especially that time at the Chinese restaurant, the attitude towards life I felt when exploring Li Zi's spiritual world has always deeply influenced Wanda. This Oriental man has an inexplicable attraction to her. At the moment Wanda saw that he didn't speak, and couldn't help feeling a little depressed. Are you sure you won't come? I've already prepared all the dishes in advance. Since the witch cooks the kitchen herself, I definitely can't miss it. Li Zi's silence wasn't hesitation, it was purely accidental. In the past, it was normal for the sexy witch to invite him out for a meal, or to take a walk and chat occasionally. Between friends, it's okay to do so. An unsolicited invitation to dinner at home is another matter entirely. Think about it, lonely men and widows. Cough cough cough. Li Zi admitted that for a moment, he thought wrongly. Wanda treats guests, which is obviously in line with the open and free personality of the country of America. Just have a meal. After a while, the two had arrived at the next suite. As Wanda said, there are several dishes on the table, including Chinese dishes, and there are bowls and chopsticks beside the table. Wanda, you are happy to be a Chinese. Li Zi was a little surprised to find that there was no knife and fork on the dining table. You took me to eat Chinese food for a whole month. If I don't know how to use chopsticks, don't I look stupid? Wanda gave him a blank look. After eating Chinese food for a month, she has already tamed the chopsticks. No, Wanda, you're smart. Li Zi sat on the chair and couldn't wait to pick up the chopsticks and eat a big mouthful of braised pork. The fat but not greasy braised pork has moderate fat and the taste blooms in the taste buds. Served with a mouthful of plump rice, it makes people want to eat more. Li Zi ate a few mouthfuls of meat with rice, raised his head with unsatisfied interest, and asked in surprise, this is your first time cooking Chinese food? The second time, I tried it yesterday. Seeing his surprised expression, Wanda couldn't help feeling satisfied. I was wrong just now, you are not only smart, you are also a genius. Li Zi recalled, as a Chinese. I have cooked braised pork a few times, but the taste was terrible. One time I didn't control the heat well, and what I got was a dry pot. But he wouldn't say it, it would be embarrassing. But I have to say that cooking really requires a little ability. How can there be so many geniuses? You say that every time. Wanda was speechless and smiled helplessly. This guy loves poisoned milk every time and likes to call her a genius when it comes to magic. However, she hadn't even touched any magic books. Because I like to tell the truth. Li Zi wasn't joking. Some people are destined to be the chosen ones in some ways, and you can't deny that. Eat more vegetables and less talk. Wanda was speechless. The guy talked a lot while eating. Wanda, who was often silent, also talked more. She looked at the handsome face who was sitting across from him eating, and seemed to think of something. Li, you are right. 5 years have passed in the real world, and I should look forward. Have you figured it out? Li Zi was slightly taken aback when he heard this. He definitely knew that the witch was referring to vision. During the month of getting along, Wanda mentioned this matter to him several times. Most of the time, halfway through the talk, they just skipped it in a few words. Now I hear Wanda say that. Li Zi was surprised and surprised. Although I can perceive that the witch's emotions have stabilized and gradually let go of the vision matter, it's another matter to hear it with my own ears. Wanda nodded. Congratulations on taking another step towards your new life. Seeing this, Li Zi raised his glass and took a sip of wine. Woo woo woo. He no longer has to worry about the origin magic power getting out of control. Thinking about it, he asked, so, do you have any new goals? The Avengers changed, Steve and Tony are gone, and I don't want to go back. Wanda said that she drank red wine here, her old friends are not here, and there is no point in going back. She originally didn't like to participate in the mission. Going back to participate in the mission is nothing more than becoming a tool for the government to kill. Experienced Sokovia Agreement incident. She knew that the vast majority of people above did not treat the Avengers as human beings at all, and only wanted to hold superhero in their hands. Wanda, your cooking skills are so good, you might as well open a Chinese restaurant in the future, and I am willing to be your loyal guest. After Li Zi ate the last piece of braised pork, he was still a little unsatisfied. It's the first time I have eaten braised pork that is really fat but not greasy. Seasoning and heat make the fat and lean meat, the taste of cooking makes people aftertaste. Well. Actually, Li, I invite you to dinner tonight, and there is one more thing. Wanda interrupted him, staring at him intently with her beautiful eyes glowing with a faint scarlet light. What's up? Hear the sound. Li Zi was puzzled, and his eyes fell on Wanda's face. She drank some wine, her fair face was as crimson as her code name, and it seemed to be covered with a layer of pink, with an indescribable charm. For a while. In the cold room, the atmosphere seems to be getting a little strange. What's up? Li Zi looked at the witch's melancholy eyes, and under the light orange light, her face seemed to be covered with a layer of tulle, which one couldn't help but uncover further. In particular, she exudes a light fragrance mixed with wine. At the moment, the atmosphere gradually becomes a bit strange. Ahem, it's actually not a big deal. Wanda also sensed that the atmosphere was not right, and hurriedly coughed twice and sat up straight. Do not know why. Her chest was throbbing violently, and she couldn't relieve it after taking a few deep breaths. If it's okay, I'll go back first. Li Zi panicked. Lonely men and widows. A fair-skinned, beautiful woman with an excellent figure and a slightly drunken appearance sat across from her, taking deep breaths. Wanda is afraid that she doesn't know her figure. It's hard for a man anyway. No, actually I just want to invite you to travel to Venice together. When Wanda heard what he said, she stopped talking immediately. You and me. Li Zi was dumbfounded. Before he came in just now, he felt that something was wrong with the witch today. Hearing this now, I am even more puzzled. Wanda would come to ask me to go on a trip together? Why? Li Zi's face was full of disbelief. Wanda, are you sure you weren't affected by origin magic power? Or, those things hit too hard? Don't talk nonsense. Don't think about it. I just want to start over and find a place to relax, so I bought a package in Venice from a travel agency. Wanda was afraid that he would misunderstand, so she explained clearly in one breath, and she did not forget to take out 2 scrolls from her pocket, on which were pictures of Venice. She continued. Li, you are my only friend here, can you accompany me on this trip to Venice? Okay. Li Zi thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. Since he traveled to the Marvel Universe, he hasn't left Westview Town yet. Stayed in town all the time, waiting for hide time. Now the sexy Scarlet Witch invitation, accompanied by beautiful women, is not in vain. Besides, if you are lucky on this trip, you may also meet Spider-Man and Mysterio, a fledgling rookie hero, and a wily old cunt. The two staged a good show to save the world together. Li, you are so kind. Heard the words. Wanda smiled on her pretty face, and against the dim light, she smiled coquettishly. This month with you is the happiest month since I came back from Twinkle. Li Zi bumped into Wanda's smile, and was a little confused for a while. In fact, in the 199,999 universe, Wanda's appearance is different from the image seen in the previous film and television. Her appearance is more refined, full of American three-dimensional sense, but also a bit playful. It is said that the more evil and powerful the witch is, the more beautiful she is, full of charm all over her body, attracting you everywhere. Wanda Maximov is the legendary witch. Sometimes, apparently inadvertent actions can lead people to commit crimes. Cough cough cough. Wanda on the opposite side coughed a few times. Li Zi realized that he had lost his composure, and looked a little embarrassed, and said slowly, Wanda, in fact, you are easy to be satisfied. I accompany you, and I hope you can find new goals in life. It's late, I'll go back first. After finishing speaking, he hurriedly said goodbye and left in a hurry, really afraid that if he stayed with Wanda for a while longer, he would not be able to help but commit a crime. Good night, Li. Seeing his embarrassed appearance, Wanda couldn't help but smile. After closing the door, I found the envelope containing the travel agency paper in my pocket, and the words "Couple Pass" were written on the cover. She put away the paper, her slightly drunk and beautiful eyes shimmered, and said to herself, I forgot to say, in fact, I have found a new goal. The other side. Mexico, Tlaxcala. On the boundless desert, a black SUV was driving on the yellow mud road at high speed, and the rear of the car raised dust and fog into the sky. Looking around, the dust mist blown by the strong wind was quickly broken by the SUV and left behind. A few minutes later, the black SUV came to a ruined town, and almost all the surrounding houses were broken and collapsed. Many stumbling figures on the street came out of the ruins, everyone had pain on their faces, and some were limping. Apparently the town had just been through a catastrophe. Crack. Bang. A black man got out of the car and looked around. Fury. Every disaster can't be the end of the world, it's just one big hurricane. The Hill agent of the co-pilot got out of the car and reminded. A hurricane doesn't grow a human face. Someone mentioned that they saw a human face in a hurricane many times, and now it's happening in many places in Mexico. Nick Fury shook his head. He scanned the surroundings with a serious expression, searching for clues that might be hidden in the ruins. Boom. Boom. Sudden. There was a strange noise from the originally peaceful ruins, and the earth trembled slightly, as if an earthquake was coming. Seeing this, the surrounding refugees fled in panic. Mom F*K. Nick Fury touched the gun on his waist, and turned to look at the trembling ruins behind him. Boom. Next second. An incomparably huge figure broke through the ground and suddenly rose from the ground, and the tall figure instantly enveloped the surroundings. Fury, you're right. Hill looked at the behemoth, terrified in his heart. Shit. What is this? Nick Fury frowned, just about to raise his gun and shoot. He heard a noise behind him. Turn around and look. A cloud of green mist emerged out of thin air, followed by a fish tank overhead, and a man in a battle uniform strode out. Although I don't know where this is, I still want to say something. Get out of the way, I'll get rid of this guy. Mysterio took off his helmet, and put it back on immediately after speaking. The feet suddenly started, sprayed out green mist, and rushed towards the huge monster in the distance. Nick Fury watched the figure wrestling with the big man, and he suddenly realized that things seemed to be far beyond expectations. Who was this guy with a fishbowl on his head?